And we are live, my friends. Happy week one. I think it officially begins today because we've got all these games. It's going to be a good day. And it's a great day for me personally right now because I am not solo streaming for honestly one of the first. I mean, I've had this guy on a couple times during MLB, but he was honestly my only person I've really ever co-hosted with. This is a special moment for me. I love this guy. Detroit Beastie, what is up, my dude?
Thank you for having me, Mitch. And it's an odd thing, right? You broadcast alone, you got your own thing going, and it's not an ego thing for you, but it's you kind of got to get out of your comfort zone and go, look, I'm having a blast doing this. I got some good people around me. Let's roll. I can get a guy or several men who could take a little bit of pressure off when I'm doing some things behind the scenes, and I want to be that guy for you. You're Robin, Batman, Robin.
What a duo. I was thinking about this morning. I was talking to my wife. I'm like, I am so excited to have Chris on with me because, I'm just going to have an opportunity to, throw Chris up on the big screen, hide myself, and drink some coffee. I can't wait to listen to you talk about some of these games. I'm going to take in and absorb the information you give. I did a podcast Friday night with the Draft Sharks crew. I had a good time listening to them. And one thing I think I did not realize, and I don't mind talking about this as people are kind of entering into the show today. One thing I didn't realize is how much I'm going to pick up from other people that come on the show because I'm in my own zone all week, all day, all night, and I'm often by myself while I'm doing this. And I'm not really listening to the industry. I'm not listening to what other people have to say. I just don't have the time. But when I'm on air with people, I'm forced to. You have been a wealth of information for our members. I see people tagging you on Twitter all the time saying, thank you, or I love that show. That was a really interesting point you made. Sometimes people just enjoy spitballing type of topics you bring up. So today, I'm really, really excited. I'm thankful you're here. And I'm very thankful to chat today for being here. My goodness, we're up to almost 80 people watching. We're 4 minutes into the show. Back on Twitch. And I said this a couple days ago. We had 418 solo streamed hours on Twitch over 2 years. That is a little under 23 days full, right? We had 1.38 million minutes watched on Twitch. A crazy amount of time invested by the Twitch community. We switched over to YouTube a month ago. I'm very excited to be here. And it was a struggle in the beginning getting us going with YouTube. So to the people who are here today watching on YouTube, enjoying the show already, thank you so much. I'm very humbled to have the support from you no matter what platform we're on. Now, let's not delay this any longer, my friends. We are going to be doing multiple things today. We're going to be looking at lineup building on DraftKings. I'm going to show you some FanDuel, some Yahoo, some superdraft. We're going to be looking at Fantasy Cruncher, our partner site. We're going to be looking at our website, All Things Study Hub, so that we can do studying together. Figure we can do some on air. We'll be looking at the projections for Yahoo and Superdraft and all these sites. Beastie and I are going to be going over the stacks. One thing I wanted to show today that we added the double stacks and the market share stacks, two things that we did not really highlight throughout the week. These are very, very useful. I will explain how to use them, what they are. A lot of people like putting secondary correlation into their stacks where you have a player versus a player on the same game without their quarterbacks. And it's a nice way to get exposure to, a high profile game where there's going to be a lot of scoring. So we're going to kind of cover all of it today. Now I have two companies that I'm going through today. And number one is going to be teamriseorfall.com. The other is going to be myspari.com. So I'm simply going to bring up the betting aspect before we dive into each game. Chris and I will be going over game by game rather than position by position. I will do that on my own later when Chris exits the show, and I'll talk about my personal exposures at each position, and I'll talk about kind of how I'm feeling out the situation among certain decisions, because there's a lot of 2v2, 3v3 type things that people are going to do in their lineups today. I want to talk about ownerships. I want to talk about pivoting off of ownership. So I'll do that in the final segment of the show. Let's get to it, Chris. So very first one that you and I said we were going to cover was going to be Arizona at Tennessee. Now, this is an electric type fantasy game. You talked about it ad nauseum in your fantasy stuffed video, and it's going to be exciting. I mean, there's a bunch of players on both sides of the field here that are going to be great GPP options. a bunch of really good cash options. Real quick, the NFL Edge report, if anybody wanted to check that out, this bad boy actually has Arizona, the plus 130 Vegas consensus underdogs, coming into this game as the minus 150 favorites, winning 60% of the time in the 10,000 simulations for this game. So how do you see this game playing out? And I'm intrigued to hear from you.
You know what's wild, Mitch, is you say right at this moment in time, it has like Arizona, they're the underdog, but they're also projected to win, if I'm not mistaken. On Monday, through bottom of the barrel and through several broadcasts this week, I said, even in fantasy stuffed games, almost a week ago, like 3 or 4 days ago, I said I have Arizona winning this game like 31-27, and I was raked over the coals. People said, you're crazy, you're nuts, because as it stands right now, the recency bias, right? Tennessee added Julio Jones. Everybody's just in love with Tennessee and Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, which I am too, but you kind of got to put that stuff to the side and just see it for what it is. And this is going to be a fantastic game. And overall, I have Tennessee winning like 31-27 here. And in terms of the fantasy, the DFS stuff here, you have to look at Kyler Murray. Kid is electric. He gets a ton of usage on the ground by his own volition. He'll take off and run and split here. The one guy in this game that I'm not like very high on, like I don't want to, spend up for him. If you look at what is he, Ryan Tannehill on DraftKings and FanDuel here, he's been on the shelf, if I'm not mistaken, for a few weeks, maybe a month or two, because they backtrace some COVID stuff. I believe he actually, I shouldn't say this without having researched it, but I believe Ryan Tannehill did have COVID at one point in time over the last fall or winter in where we are now. So I'm not ready to go all in on Tannehill from a DFS perspective today, but that's fine. There's a ton of games. There's a ton more quarterbacks to use. But in a way, it's kind of like this is going to sound contradictory, and I promise you it's not. You can't get away from A.J. Brown in this one. This guy, he'll take it to the house at any moment in time. So you say, well, you like A.J. Brown, but you don't like Ryan Tannehill. How can the one or two fit together here? Well, Tannehill doesn't have to bomb the ball down the field. Once A.J. Brown gets the ball in his hands, if he wants to go to the end zone, A.J. Brown will run you over into the end zone. So like a little bubble screen or something, right in the middle of the field, 10, 15 yards, nothing crazy. So for that purpose, I love A.J. Brown. And I shouldn't have to say this. I've been saying it's blue in the face this week. I published short videos, all with Team Rise or Fall. Derrick Henry is a monster. He's a madman. He's like Frankenstein. He's huge. He will smush you into the ground. He has stiff arm dummies at practice. It's crazy to me. So Derrick Henry is always in play in this one. And if you look at, let me bring this up real quick, if I may. If you look at Arizona, right, that Arizona goes to Tennessee. I believe Arizona is, Arizona is in the mid to low 20s in terms of how their defense stacks up against running back. So it doesn't matter. He could be playing against a brick wall. I'm still going to play Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a phenomenal option. What I like about him the most right now, too, is that when you look at the players that are priced around him, he kind of just like falls by the wayside. Everyone's going to look at CMC, and I'll bring up DraftKings real quick. We'll just look at the actual pricing here. And I was thinking about this the other day. I think he might honestly be the lowest owned of the elite running backs today, because a lot of people, especially on DraftKings, they're looking at CMC there at 9.5K. They're looking at Delvin Cook 9.1, and then they're going to say, well, man, Jameis Winston's there. Traquan Smith is out. Marquez Callaway going to get peppered. Alvin Kamara going to get fed out of the backfield, and he's going to get a bunch of targets out of the backfield probably. And you've got him at 8.6K. Derrick Henry just awkwardly priced in there at 8.8 on a site that only rewards, mostly is rewarding these guys with high PPR upside. Well, Derrick Henry, man, would anybody be shocked if he goes out there today and he has one of those patented 39-point games? There's 39, 28, 39, 200 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. It's not like this is abnormal. He's had, how many games does he have? 4 games over 39 points last year at the running back position. That's ridiculous. So it's an interesting situation where you have the opportunity to use a guy who will be under-owned for the type of upside that he has. And I love Derrick Henry for that reason. I'm always kind of looking for these price point pivots in DFS when you can take someone who is very comparable floor and ceiling combination as people around him, but you get them at a lower ownership. And we don't need ownerships. Everyone always is looking for an ownership of like hey, this guy's chalky, 28%, but this guy over here is 4% owned. It doesn't need to be like that every single time. And let me paint a little picture for you. What if you went through each and every position when you did your lineup, and all you did was look for just a slightly lower owned player? We're talking, an 18% owned Kamara for a 12% owned Derrick Henry. That 6 percentage points across 9 different lineup spots adds up to 55, 54% total ownership differential. It's very small things like that that can lead to a very drastic result in the lineups. You don't need it to be a massive differential. You don't need the player to massively outscore the other player as well. If 20% of the field has Kamara, who scores 20 points, and you are in 10% of the field that has Henry, that scores 25 points, it's only a 5-point difference. It's not like he scored 40, but you did outscore 20% of the field by 5 points, and you're only moving with 10% of the field in the standings. So it's little edges like that I think people kind of overlook at this point in the game. There's very small edges in DFS these days. And I think that's one of them where people just still don't entirely understand how to use ownership, how to leverage ownership. Another way to leverage it today is, and I'm looking at this one specifically, and I want to stay in this game over here, is Rondell Moore looks like he's going to be quite popular today. There's a lot of players. There's 26 teams. There's 13 games. There's a dozen 3K to 4.5K wide receivers who look pretty good. Marvin Jones, Marquez Callaway are in there. Terrace Marshall also 3K. Rondell Moore 3K for Arizona. But he looks like he's going to garner some ownership today. I believe our initial projections had him for 8%. I have not looked this morning as they were updated at like 3 a.m. I'm intrigued to see what people are doing with Rondell Moore. For me, the only way I'm using a guy like Rondell Moore is included in a stack. I'm sorry. He's a rookie in his first game. That offense, we're not entirely sure how he'll get used, if he's just going to be gimmicky, if they're going to manufacture plays for him, but he's not going to be often looked at outside of those manufactured plays. We don't know, Chris, and I'm intrigued to see what they do with him. So a guy like that, I'm cool with using inside stacks with Tannehill, game stack, or stacked with Kyler Murray. But as like a standalone piece, I'm not really intrigued on using someone like him.
Yeah, I'm with you. And before we continue in this game, I want to say, excuse me, to anybody watching this, I've been playing DFS for so long, and I promise I have a point here, Mitch, right? And I write everything down, stacks, the combinations, the price points, and I get every day, multiple folks ask me what's going on with Team Rise or Fall. You're with them now, you're doing videos. I see Mitch all the time. People ask me, what's the big draw to Team Rise or Fall? And I say, well, first, it has a collection of experts and studs who are willing to share their process. But to me, it's the ownership percentage tool that you have on this website. In all my years playing DFS, little to no people talk about ownership percentage and how you can use it for leverage and so on and so forth. So to anybody watching it now, the ownership percentage is so important, especially in today's day and age of DFS. As you just said moments ago, there's little to no edges to gain in DFS anymore because everybody is playing. It gets watered down at a point. But when you talk about ownership percentages from a price point, and then when I tie this up in a bow, to me, Rondell Moore, I'm with you. He's maybe just part of a stack, because at a one-off at a one-off portion right now, I believe he is $4,900 on FanDuel. You gave his price for DraftKings, but he's just not where I would want him to be in terms of a price point and to equal the production that I think he gets this afternoon.
Yeah, you nailed it. I had just brought up our projections page so I can quickly search Rondell Moore's name, and I see him at 4.1% projected ownership. 4.9K is an interesting price tag, but FanDuel, we're looking for guys that can score touchdowns more than anything. I don't know if we see Rondell Moore get into the end zone today unless he creates some mayhem in the open field. I just think that if we're inside the red zone, is he going to be somebody they're going to target? I don't know. He might not be that guy initially. I think he's going to be, a playmaker more so than like a red zone threat. So, 4.9% ownership is totally acceptable on FanDuel as a single, one-off or inside a stack. That's fine. But is he the type of guy that profiles as a good FanDuel play? That remains to be seen. And that's part of the fun factor on the first games today, as we are just learning about a lot of these different players. Well, we know this game's going to be a potential shootout. That's what Vegas has it as. I want to slide over to Cleveland at Kansas City. Again, my friends, this is CG's favorite team, Cleveland Browns. So you always got to be a little mindful when you're looking at the Cleveland Browns. Did he sway the projections? Did he heavily weight Cleveland in the model? Oh, my friends, we're going to find out right now. Is the first thing I want to look at is the Cleveland stacks. Okay, I want to look at the stacks. And the first one I want to find is what is the best 3-player Cleveland stack? So I'm using our top DraftKings NFL stacks tool. And I'm sliding down to Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, and Travis Kelce. So that stack, that combination is projected for 52.74. Let me throw this up on the live screen for you here. 52.74 points. That is the 7th highest projected stack out of this game. A nice rating of 209, which is not too bad. That means their player ratings are a total of 209 and a value of 2.61, which is actually quite low. So that's only 13th based on the 3-player stacks. However, when we slide over and we look at a 4-player game stack, now we're looking at, quarterback with 2 of his players and 1 opponent. The best one we find right here is, and this is actually one I'm quite excited about, Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, and Travis Kelce. And this is the 7th best player rating stack inside this game. And here's why I love it so much. On DraftKings, when you're looking at this Cleveland and KC game, my friends, look at this Q next to Odell Beckham. I don't think that this is going to be removed today. I think that this will be here the remainder of the morning. Now, there was a report maybe a half hour ago that Odell Beckham was good to go for today, even though he had the questionable tag all week. And we've seen him all offseason. He's looked great. There's been no issues with his knee. He's looked totally healthy. And I love seeing these little tags here in the beginning of the season, because I say probably half the field who enters these tournaments is simply using this to see who is active, who is not. So don't mind the Q tag. Pay attention to reports this morning if something comes out later. But as of now, Chris Galligan, his CG's Odell Beckham-led Browns here are in an interesting spot in a potential shootout where I am not hearing or seeing people talk about Cleveland today. And listen, if KC goes up in a hurry, and we saw them this preseason, they were something electric as they normally are. If they go out there and they score quick, they score early, and they score often, Cleveland's going to have to heave the ball a ton, in which case this could be one of those stacks that everyone looks back and says, we saw it. It was looking at us right there in the face. I should have thrown this out there. There's an abundant amount of value, especially at wide receiver, where you can grab 2 wide receiver, right here for the wide receiver spot and the flex spot, who are cheap, who are affordable, which allow you to go off there and grab a higher profile stack, probably slam in a couple high profile running backs, punt at your defense, and all of a sudden you've got a really nice looking lineup with a lot of upside if this ends up being a shootout.
Yeah, this game was mentioned in the fantasy stuff games. I think that the over in this one is a lock. Over under, and this is the highest over under of the weekend. 54.5 points here. I could see literally 70 plus points combined total in this one. Mentioned Kareem Hunt in bottom of the barrel. I think there's a clear path to playing time there. And if you look at his price, $6,000 on FanDuel, $5,500 on DraftKings. Kareem Hunt will be just the forgotten man, right? To most people. And Mitch, I can promise you now, I know CG is a big Cleveland Browns fan. I can promise you my Detroit Lions fandom will never get in the way of my projections and my stacks here. The Lions are, to put it mildly, they're not that good, so I'm not going to carry on with the Detroit Lions here. And we know the drill with Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tyreek Hill. For some odd reason, if you look at the projections for Mecole Hardman, everybody's on Mecole Hardman this weekend. And I think it just, with Hardman, it picked up pace because you see a lot of folks on social media just toss around opinions and ideas. And that you get another group of folks that take those same opinions and ideas as gospel. And before you know it, you got a full-blown snowball rolling down the hill, and it turns into a full-blown avalanche here. To me, Mecole Hardman he's not a kid, or I should say a man that I'm going to be looking to that often, maybe in a plus matchup, right? And actually, Hardman against Cleveland's 28th against opposing wide receivers, so that is a plus matchup here, but I'm with you 100%. I should have spoke up before we went live. I promise you I'm not making this up on the spot. That 3-4-man stack you just mentioned with Odell Beckham and then Travis Kelce at the end stood out to me like a blinking light. You probably think I'm making it up just to kind of, move the show along. But I promise you that stack is going to be fantastic in a game where everybody's going to be looking in the opposite direction. Everybody's going to stack Cleveland because, as I've also mentioned, I think I heard you say it too. Week 1, it's going to be insanely watered down. Everybody and their mother is going to be playing DFS, so you're going to get lines that are, as I said, watered down, and nobody really knows what they're doing. So I think week 1 through 3 is where we can have the edge with the study hub with these 3-man stacks here. So yeah, give me the Cleveland Browns stack with Kelce as the cherry on top.
Yeah, you want that touchdown equity. And of course, if you're talking DraftKings, he also has the PPR equity as well. As a guy who had over 100 yards in 9 out of the last 11 games, scored a touchdown in 8 out of the last 11, was getting peppered with targets. I mean, Kelce, the guy I want the most on the other side of the ball, simply because at wide receiver, there are so many other options, right? You don't need to go Tyreek Hill inside that stack. While at tight end, it's Kelce, and then honestly, a bunch of volatile picks. Don't tell me TJ Hawkinson's, consistent yet. Don't tell me Kittle is consistent yet in a game they might not throw the ball 20 times against the Detroit Lions. So, it's Travis Kelce, and then it's just a bunch of volatility and definitely baked into their price tags as well. Everyone else is pretty much cheap this week across the industry. Mecole Hardman, I love what you said. Guys like that, they're fine within the construct of like a nice full game stack. Those super volatile options who are often a little overpriced, in my opinion, too. I don't like them as one-offs if they're going to be somebody that, there's just, what is the upside, right? Like that is an unspoken upside when we have other players whom I think have a higher ceiling, whom we've seen have a higher ceiling, who are at different price tags I'm more interested in. So like if I'm going to be choosing between Mecole Hardman, whom really struggles to catch the football, has always been inefficient. Yes, he has a starting position, but does that mean he's going to get peppered like a number 2 wide receiver? No, not really. He's the number 3 on the team, and potentially that's going to be like a rotisserie position between him, Byron Pringle, Demarcus Robinson. They were rotating these guys through the preseason. Clyde Edwards-Helaire might get some targets out of the backfield, but ultimately I think it's just going to be the Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce show for the most part. And if I'm going to be paying around $5K, give me Laviska Shenault. Give me Corey Davis.
Absolutely.
I'll go down $300 to go get Devonta Smith as a one-off. Again, we're talking one-offs. Inside a stack, sure, Mecole Hardman, a fine option. We only have him projected for 10 points today, a 2.1 value, nothing to scoff at, nothing to be excited about. That is not a very good projection. So it is very easy for me to stay away from that guy today. Let's slide over to Baltimore and Las Vegas. Oh, Wrong game. Sorry. Let's slide over to Denver and the Giants. Do I have that one correct? That is a 4:05 game today. This is actually one I saw that you put down on some of your core picks today on the website for the members. I saw your Denver picks. Why don't you kick this one off? I feel like this is right inside your wheelhouse today, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to start off with just a public service announcement. All week, people have been floating the idea of Denver, the Denver DST, is where you want to be from a DFS perspective when you start your stacks. Everybody builds their lineups the same way, or different way, excuse me. And I've made no secret about the fact that that's the first position I look at when I build my lines. The rest of them, it's all fluid and relative, week to week based on matchups. But I'm telling you now that the Giants will be, let me look at the final score, what I have for the final score predictions real quick, Mitch, if you don't mind. Yeah, I have this one, Denver winning about 24-21 here. And when it comes to stacking the Denver Broncos, the original question that you asked me, sorry, I get long-winded and excited here, but when it comes to Denver, Teddy Bridgewater's the quarterback. Javonte, I love him from a DFS perspective, and I also love the Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton stack, your 3-man stack, and I'll tell you why. The New York Giants have, I said this maybe a month ago, the New York Giants have kind of a sneaky defense, right? They made some selections in this draft. They put together a collection of young, kind of quick talent here, and I just think first and foremost, sorry to any New York Giants fans, but Daniel Jones, to me, it's now or never with him, and I just don't think the kid has what it takes to kind of move this franchise in the right direction. But in terms of the Denver Broncos, I think they're putting something special together on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. And first and foremost, it's that what's the most simple to me, Mitch, is the ownership percentage for the Denver Broncos. Nobody's going to be on Javonte Williams. Cortland Sutton, I've said all week, he's been swept under the rug. No one cares about him. And then Jerry Jeudy. So we could get over on some folks with that three-headed monster. And if you want to throw Teddy B in there, have at it.
Yeah, so one of them you actually just brought up is the Jeudy versus Sutton scenario, and I actually highlighted this on DraftKings as I have this up in front of people. I was showing a couple other things for a minute while you were speaking. First off, I want to highlight this. This game plays to the under on both sides of the field today. Based on the Sparry projection model, Broncos under 22.3. The Vegas consensus has them at 21.5. Giants at 17.5, which plays to, Broncos being a good defense. Actually, one thing we always know in NFL for defenses, you often want to pick those defenses with a very nice looking spread, as that also means that the opposing team is going to be throwing the football to come from behind late in the game. It leads to a lot of sacks, interceptions. The problem with them today with Denver is that they're popular, and you don't really want a popular defense in week one. There's a lot of very good defensive options. So the Denver Broncos at 3-3, I believe on FanDuel 4.1K. On FanDuel 4.1K, go ahead, slide them in there in cash. I think it's a fine option because I am just with you with Daniel Jones. He ain't it, and he just doesn't look like it. He looks lost out there. It's not happening. He's got all the talent around him, young talent around him at this point. If he can't make it happen right now, and in the first few weeks here, Giants better start looking towards the future in another direction. Now, the Cortland Sutton issue you brought up here is everyone's on Jerry Jeudy. I love it. I love it so much. Everyone's talking Jeudy. Teddy B is going to make Jerry Jeudy the best. Cortland Sutton coming off the ACL. My friends, they are similar pricing right now. And you have an opportunity here. Let me bring up the study hub in Denver. You have an opportunity here where you are looking at this game and, you've got a very nice looking stack and you're going to kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, here by using Noah Fant at tight end. Okay, because you are getting off of one of the most important spots in the entire slate. And I talked about this in the Donuts playbook. It's a premium thing on the website for members. By the way, if you are not a member, you want to check us out. Promo code NFL50. It's the last, looks like 3.5 hours you can use this promo code, and you end up getting your first month with Team Rise or Fall for just $15. So if you want to check that out, I don't want to sit here and just like push promo, but there are 130 people watching. This is our first month on YouTube. It's probably a good idea for me to show that every once in a while. Let me do that before I get to why tight end position, as I think where people will win and lose their slate, as weird as that sounds. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So our website, teamriseorfall.com, it's, it was just 4 or 5 pros got together and we're like, let's put up some DFS content that we think would be good in a different type of way. And we really lead from a how and why, not so much a who. Do we give you the who? Yeah, we do. I mean, we give away player pools for every site, core picks for every site. But a large amount of what we do is we focus on specifically how to use players and why we're using them, right? That matters to us more so than who. And anybody who tells you otherwise, I think, is the snake oil salesman. You really need to focus on, how to build lineups, how to build lineups in certain contests, and why you're using certain players only in certain contests. Now, one of the guys I want to talk about is Noah Fant. I think is phenomenal for large field tournaments, whether he's a standalone option or he's a stacking option. And here's why. Today, you will see a large amount of the field go bang. Travis Kelce, I don't trust anybody else. They're going to plug him in. There's so much value of wide receiver, 3K wide receiver this, 3K wide receiver that, 3.6K. Marvin Jones, 3.4K Marquez Callaway, Rondell Moore, 3K, Terrace Marshall, 3K, Elijah Moore, 3K. Like, what the heck, man? Everyone's just going to slam in these cheap wide receivers. They're going to say, give me 2 high-priced running backs, give me Travis Kelce, and I'll live with the results. Well, you can get different today. Target these mid-priced wide receivers who are going to be very under-owned because they're awkwardly priced. Everyone's going studs and duds. I saw John Porter in chat today, one of the other pros on our site, say everyone's going to go cheap wide receivers. And he's right. And what happens when they do that? They're going to use their money elsewhere. So I think a lot of people are going to go Travis Kelce, lock button, go 20, 25% ownership. And then from there, people who do not use him are going to look at this position and say, I don't know about Kittle at 6'3". They might not throw the ball. DJ Hawkinson, I don't know if he's going to be like double coverage all game. It might not be efficient. So they're going to go right down to the next guy, Kyle Pitts at 4.4K. I think he's going to have 15, 18% ownership. Extremely volatile position of week one. We don't know how he's going to be used. We know he'll be featured to an extent, but to what efficiency, we don't know. If he doesn't score a touchdown, then I'm assuming to some extent here that he's going to be, he's not going to hit value or exceed value at the ownership he's going to carry. You can use a guy like Noah Fant, who, listen, does he have the same upside as Kyle Pitts? We don't know yet. Does he have the same floor as Pitts? We don't know that either. And that's what I want to embrace. And I want people to embrace the volatility that is a week one NFL tight end. Noah Fant, honestly, might end this game with the same amount of targets, potentially more yards receiving, more catches, and more, passable touchdowns in this game than Kyle Pitts, who's going to have 5 times the ownership. I believe our initial ownership on Noah Fant, let me take a peek at this, was 2.5% last night, and it is at 2.9%.
Okay.
What in the world? 2.9%? And we're talking Kyle Pitts up there around 15%. I love using Noah Fant today. I love using Cortland Sutton, who's going to be half the ownership, maybe a third of the ownership of Jerry Jeudy, who everybody and their mom is talking about in shorts, in long form videos and tweets. It's Jerry Jeudy this, Jerry Jeudy that. Get different. Use Cortland Sutton. Get different. Use Noah Fant over Pitts and Kelce. And then, my friends, no one's touching Kenny Golladay today. No one's touching him. All preseason hamstring issues. I saw Daniel Jones look like trash. Kenny Golladay, if healthy today, is getting 10 to 12 targets. What can he do with those? I don't know. We'll find out, but I love the risk and using this type of stack in a large tournament today. This is honestly one of my favorite looking stacks on the entire slate. It allows you to be different today. It's all low-owned players. Every single one of them, we're talking probably 8% or less ownership, a very low-owned stack in a very large field tournament. I think it's a great one. So I'm glad we got to this game early. I think it could be one of those really, really interesting spots. Now, here's another game we're going to talk about next. And this one actually will not be sneaky at all. I think a lot of people will be playing players in this game. It's going to be the Packers in New Orleans. Chris, you want to kick us off again?
Yeah, and I just want to say really quick, just rewinding back a moment or two, when people talk about Jeudy or Kelce or Kenny Golladay, everybody, week one, you get a lot of folks, seasonal and dynasty formats, their thought process, it bleeds over into DFS. They don't do a ton of work in terms of ownership percentages and projections, and they see, oh, I like this guy in my seasonal formats, let me plug him in here. So when we dig in, like Mitch is doing it, I'm just kind of hanging out here. When you dig into everything, you can see the difference in where you can get over on people. So Green Bay and New Orleans, these two teams have become somewhat of nasty, bitter rivals. They absolutely dislike each other. And on the Green Bay side of the ball, nothing has changed. Aaron Rodgers is still the man in Green Bay, but now it's Jameis Winston at quarterback for the Saints. I have this game. The over-under is at about 50 points here. Excuse me. And I think all 50 of those points hit. Maybe even... Excuse me, I was clearing my throat here. So when you get into the Green Bay, New Orleans side of things, obviously everybody's going to want to be on who? Devontae Adams, right? Everybody's going to want to be on Aaron Jones. Nothing crazy here. I think we can get over with Robert Tonyan here. I've mentioned him in a lot of my work and my writing. He's $5,400 on FanDuel. And the New Orleans Saints are, let me bring this up, they're 20th overall against opposing tight ends. So Mitch was just speaking about Noah Fant. I love Robert Tonyan just as much as he loves Fant here, I believe is how you say his last name. So to me, the New Orleans and Green Bay game is going to get into this weird give and take here. Everybody and their mother is going to be on Marquez Callaway. I think for that reason, he's a fade. Plus, Green Bay is 3rd overall against opposing wide receivers, and it's just a process of elimination in New Orleans. A lot of, injured players there. They have Alvin Kamara, of course, $8,600 on FanDuel. He's at the top of the list in terms of DFS and stacking. Tony Jones Jr. is a guy I think we might need to look at. He's $4,500 on FanDuel, and Green Bay is 26th overall against opposing running backs. But then when you go down the list, I hate to go back to Callaway here, but Green Bay is 3rd overall against opposing wide receivers. So you got Callaway, Deontay Harris, Lil Jordan Humphrey, and even Juwan Johnson. In some circles, people think they're with it or they're hip, and they go, I think Juwan Johnson is going to have a big game. He's going to be the guy you want. But there's never really any validity to that. They see the name, they see he's cheap, they see an offense with Jameis Winston in here, and they just initially think, well, it's going to be all fireworks here. Well, hold your horses. Green Bay is awesome against opposing wide receivers and even tight ends. They're 6th against tight ends here. So to me, I'm not going with the New Orleans side of things at all. I started, building about a month ago, looking into prices about a month ago, and not one time did I look at New Orleans and say, oh, I need to stack these guys. And in a weird, sick way, that piques my interest. If I'm not on a team like New Orleans, maybe I should be. Maybe I should force feed myself New Orleans Saints in my DFS lines this weekend, but I don't think I'm going to go there. But again, the ownership percentages on the Green Bay side of the ball are going to be, I'm sure Mitch is bringing it up right now in terms of DraftKings and FanDuel ownership percentages. And if there's any rhyme or reason to Green Bay, I would believe that get Robert Tonyan in your lineups and maybe get A.J. Dillon in this one. It's not a sneaky pick. Everybody knows that Jamal Williams left for Detroit. A.J. Dillon is the RB2 in that offense. But in the same vein, Green Bay has always done well working in both running backs. Aaron Jones is the stud. We all know that. But A.J. Dillon might have a little bit of run here. I could see a case where A.J. Dillon gets what, Mitch? 7-8 carries. That might be a little ambitious. But he might also see 4 or 5 targets, which is also ambitious, but it's week 1. You kind of have to, in a way, I know hopefully this is received well, but you kind of have to throw caution to the wind in week 1 because we've seen practice reports and we know how, what we think the depth charts are going to work out here. But to me, on the Green Bay side of the ball, it's going to be Robert Tonyan and A.J. Dillon for me, Mitch.
Okay, I love the Tonyan pick. Not big there with A.J. Dillon, but that's the beauty of DFS, man. I mean, it's to each their own, and there's many different paths to victory. We can get there with different paths. Honestly, we can get the same place. So A.J. Dillon, I'm not there at all at 4K, but listen, he does have the touchdown equity. I think there is a chance, especially if they go up here and Jameis and the bevy of young rotational wide receivers, right, can't get it done. Well, what the heck? Then, Green Bay might be playing with a 21-point lead late in the 3rd or early 4th. And yeah, then they're going to pound the rock. And I bet you A.J. Dillon would get a few extra carries at that point. And then maybe we're looking at a guy who could end up with 12 to 15 carries. It did happen last year with Jamal Williams. He had some games in there where both him and Aaron Jones had 15 touches each. And could that happen? Yeah, I think they could probably protect the asset in Aaron Jones if they want to, and they're up late and they want to give, Dillon some run with the ones. I'm not there right now. That's an interesting Millie Maker idea. I think is a fine pick. I loved your Robert Tonyan pick. It was actually one I brought up in yesterday's Donuts Playbook. Love him. No one's talking about him. Everyone forgot. This guy had 10 touchdowns last year. I don't care that it only came in 56 targets. That's touchdown equity, man. Aaron Jones, what's his face? Aaron Rodgers, 6.8K. I mean, this guy was 7.5, almost
MVP.
8K at times last year. An absolute discount. And everyone under the sun today is going with Marquez Callaway at 3.4. My friends, I find it very difficult to plug him in large field tournaments. And I keep hearing everyone saying, he's a can't miss. He's a can't miss. You need to lock him in there. Why? Why do I need to lock him in here? This guy who has really never done anything in his career, although the opportunity's never really been anything there, looked great in the preseason. That's fantastic. Congratulations. It's game time now. It's week 1. And there's a difference when the opposing defense knows that you're literally only one of the only people that can run a solid route and catch the football. They might scheme to take Callaway out today and force Jameis to move the ball down the field with only Kamara, right? And all these other guys, Juwan Johnson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Deontay Harris. And in which case, how do you pick which one you want? They're all minimum price. They're all dart throws. And if Callaway gets schemed out, I'm sorry, you use him in cash today. You can use him in a small tournament. This is what I'm talking about. We talk about how and why more so than just who. A lot of people around the industry saying right now on other streams and other shows, I can promise you this, you tune into those other ones today, they're saying, Marquez Callaway, based on our projections today, is a fantastic value option. Go ahead and use him in your tournaments today. You're going to like his results, and no one's really taking consideration. Well, what tournaments? Well, we're talking about a Millie Maker. You're going to be plugging in a guy at 18, 20% today when you have Marvin Jones at 8%, when you have Rondell Moore, Elijah Moore, you have all these other guys, a Terrace Marshall, all single-digit ownerships at the same freaking price point. Do not get confused with a good play versus a good play in a large tournament. They're all good plays to an extent. It just matters where you're using them. Marquez Callaway, phenomenal cash play. Marquez Callaway, large tournament, terrible. I am not there. I don't like it. If he has a great game, so be it. He's not going to ruin you. There's no uber chalk in week one. There's 26 teams to choose from. He's going to be 18, 20% owned, whatever it is. I think we project him for 16.5%. So what, guys? If he goes out there and scores 20 points, you're not dead in the water. So 16% of the field gets 20 points from a 3.4K player. Well, guess what? Maybe you used Marvin Jones at 8% and he scored 12, 15 points. You're only down by 5 to 8 points at that position. I think, honestly, Callaway gets schemed out of this game. I'm very nervous about him if at 3.4 his ownership in week one. It's going to be a volatile week one. Let the peons and the public go with a guy like this in a large tournament, and you do the smart thing. You use him in a small tournament, less than 100 people. You use him in cash games. Get different otherwise, all right? Get different otherwise. And a good way to get different, my friends, is to simply just not use him and this team in tournaments. Ownership's going to be through the roof on some of these guys compared to the positions, their relative position and price point. We've got Alvin Kamara, and I struggled to use AK today on DraftKings. And this, again, we're circling back to what I said 5 minutes ago. Listen, my man, we're not going to agree on everything. Chris could go smash today. I could have a bad day, vice versa. And we're going to have different decision points. And we're not here to go with like this collaborative
to agree, all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're going to have different points. I'm going to have different points, and we're not going to agree on them all. This is one. Alvin Kamara, 8.6K on DraftKings, I think is not the play. And because I think his ownership is going to be up, you've got Aaron Jones, who I prefer in this ball game, okay, at 6.8K. Last year in a very similar game, okay? And I remember this is probably one of my best calls. And we had a guy, I think last season, win 50K on this call specifically. I remember saying, I think Aaron Jones is going to be super under-owned. It was like a price point thing, awkward pricing at 7K. And I said, he's my favorite play on the slate, scored 48 points. Okay. This is super reminiscent of that week 2 last year for me. And maybe I'm super biased because of that day, okay? And I remember 150K. I was so excited. I had a big day myself. I won 27K on Superdraft because of it. I was very pumped up. Aaron Jones today, who has talked about this guy? Nobody. No one's talking about Aaron Jones. He's so weirdly priced and awkwardly priced where everyone's going, yeah, give me some CMC. Give me some Delvin Cook. Love AK. Henry, And then they're going down here and they're saying, no. I don't want Chubb. I don't want Swift. I don't want Allaire. I don't want Sanders. I don't want Robinson. They're going down here. Well, you get some Robinson. They're going to say, give me Joe Mixon. Give me Antonio Gibson. Go down a little bit lower. I'll take some Mike Davis, Chase Edmonds, right? There's all these like value options down here. He's just like weird pricing. This awkward price range is where you win tournaments. If everyone is doing a similar lineup build, do something different. Just be different. You don't have to use trash players. Aaron Jones is a phenomenal play. I'm just building my lineup in a different way. I'm constructing it a little bit differently than the field. So Aaron Jones, honestly, one of my top 5 favorite options on the entire slate as a standalone piece. You can include him in this if you're going like Winston to Deontay Harris or something just to get off of Callaway. I don't know, however you want to use it. Honestly, I have a tough time using this game as a stack if I'm not using Jameis Winston. I like using Winston over Aaron Rodgers because I think that gets me a little bit different on its own. But Aaron Jones, man, like if you just want to go in this game and say, give me Aaron Jones and go, I'm fine with it. I love Aaron Jones today. And I know I just talked about him for 5 minutes. So let him probably go out there, get 7 carries, 35 yards. A.J. Dillon gets 20 in a blowout. So I'm sorry if it doesn't work out. I personally like Aaron Jones. I'm going to go out of my way to get him today. Give me those weirdly priced, awkward, uncomfortable picks.
Absolutely. It's shocking to me, that we're not to rehash what we talked about, but if you look at the ownership percentages on DraftKings, Callaway is projected, his ownership is higher than Devontae Adams. And when you talk about Devontae Adams, that's who people want Marquez Callaway to be, right? He's a sure thing. He's a huge red zone target hog. I mean, Adams is Adams. He's the best wide receiver in the league in my book, but we're not talking seasonal. We're talking DFS for this week. So, yeah, to me, Callaway is a fade just because everybody's just talked him up and everybody gushes over him. So, yeah, I'm with you there. No Marcus Callaway this weekend. And Aaron Jones, again, he's a stud running back. He's a top 5 running back in my eyes. And at his price point this weekend, and last I looked, let me bring that up, his ownership percentages, Aaron Jones on DraftKings today, on Team Rise or Fall, 11.3%. I mean, that's a sweet spot for me.
Yeah, and one of our members here, and it looks like that was a YouTube comment, if they put Alexander on him, he won't have a catch, alluding to Marquez Callaway. And again, that's what I was talking about in the beginning. If they scheme to stop Callaway,
he's done.
I'm not sure they have to do that at this point in this kid's career, but if they actually view him as the only receiving threat, they will lock him up. And I think that you're going to have a lot of people who said Callaway's a surefire plug-and-play option, as my buddy Matt over at DraftKings calls them the Velcro play. I'm not there. I don't want to be where everyone else is in week 1. There's too many good options, my friends. Don't get caught up in value, okay? Because there's a ton of it. It's everywhere. Let's move on, and we could probably speed this up a little bit. We're just so excited. I mean, we're together for the first time doing these streams. It's NFL Sunday. We've got a 3-hour stream planned here. I'm with Beastie for 2 hours. We've got Matt Schauf coming in at about 45 minutes from Draft Sharks and to join us. So we're excited. We're just kind of going through these games. Jacksville Houston, by the way, some of these games we have coming up, there's not as many stacks or targets in some of these games. So I think we're kind of hitting on some of the more important ones to pick from. And also, I know a lot of people today, myself included. I mean, I have 603 entries right now. I've got 150 on the early slate. I'm playing the early as well. So some of these picks we're talking about, you can use them for multiple different slate types. Aaron Jones in the early slate, I love. I might lock him in there if I'm going to run out like my first 50 entries or something. Just make sure I get a third of him. So anyways, let's move on. Jacksville, Houston. Houston, a team that could not stop the run last year, gave up 27 points per game to opposing running backs, bottom 3 in the NFL. I believe it was 152 yards per game. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember them from a previous stream. They could not stop the run. And now you have the other team who does not have Travis Etienne, and now goes back to the guy who we all loved coming into the season before Jacksonville drafted Etienne. You've got James Robinson back in RB1 life for us. Ownership not too high on him right now. I'm cool with it. I bet he'll be around 10 to 12% or so. James Robinson, we have projected for 16.27 points. His value of a 2.54 is fantastic for the position. And I love him even more on DraftKings just for the PPR upside. On FanDuel at 5.9K, he ends up being one of the higher owned players. So we'll look at a little bit of the FanDuel stuff here in a moment. But, on FanDuel, you're looking for price point pivots. And one of them, and I probably should have had them both up on stream today. But, on FanDuel, you've got Raheem Mostert there at 5.8K. A guy who I think gets 15 to 18 touches in a blowout today against Detroit. And I think he could end up, 15 touches, 85, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns before they cede carries to Trey Sermon, whom I also think is a fine option out there. And I know I'm going down multiple paths now, but it circles back to James Robinson. There's other really good options today. James Robinson, somebody I probably put in there as my third cash option on DraftKings in the flex spot or something. Or maybe I'll put him up here because he's a 1:00 game. But one of the 3 running backs I probably target in cash today on DraftKings and FanDuel is probably a fine option, but look to get different in tournaments. I'm nowhere else in this game. Laviska Shenault, maybe, but maybe you have a different take. I'm really not here. I don't like it.
Well, this is by far and away my favorite game, aside from the Denver side of the ball. The Jacksonville Jaguars are throw your hands up. That's the thing here. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear, Mitch. This is what you know what I'm getting at. So when it comes to Jacksonville, it's pretty easy peasy. I could personally spend 20 minutes talking about this game, but more importantly, I think it would be best if we spent like 3 minutes, me personally, talking about this game. Houston is just atrocious. They're 22nd overall against quarterbacks. They're 32nd overall against running backs. Last I looked, Mitch, there's only 32 teams in the NFL, and when it comes to wide receivers, they're 26th overall. So I mentioned just a bevy of Jacksonville Jaguars in bottom of the barrel this weekend. And I'd be... how can I put this? I'd be just an egomaniac narcissist to think, my content or what I say carries any weight from kind of, changing ownership percentages. I mean, I'm not, the number one DFS guy, but from some odd reason from last weekend to the bottom of the barrel graphics on Team Rise or Fall and the article, James Robinson has just hit the moon in terms of people talking about him and wanting to get their hands on him. And it was moments ago while you were talking, I was shocked looking at his FanDuel ownership percentages. James Robinson looks to be, as you said, when all said and done, probably a little bit over 20% owned on FanDuel, but J-Rob on DraftKings, not even at 10% ownership here. So to me, James Robinson is the play at running back. I don't care if it's chalk. I don't care if it's, everybody else is on him. That's fine. We could talk about strategy and building lineups where a guy like J-Rob is kind of a free square, right? You have him, Mitch. I have him. Our lineups, it's just a wash. So then you got to look at another 3 or 4 guys in our rosters where we can set ourselves apart. And I'm telling you, I love the idea of stacking both Marvin Jones Jr., who is $5,800 on FanDuel, and $3,600. He's only $3,600 on DraftKings, Marvin Jones Jr. Insane to me. And Visca Jr., $5,600 on FanDuel, $5,000 on DraftKings. So who's to say can't just do a full-blown 4-man stack? I'm looking through the Team Rise or Fall, stacks, like the favorite ones from top to bottom. Tyrod Taylor, no, absolutely not. I had to fast forward right through the Tyrod Taylor one. But to me, Trevor Lawrence, the rookie golden boy, his first professional NFL game, week 1. I think he sees a tremendous amount of work in this one. T-Law, $6,800 on FanDuel, $6,200 on DraftKings. And why the heck can't we double down with the wide receivers in here? Marvin Jones, he's steady Eddie, and not to keep calling on my Detroit Lions fandom, but this guy just puts his head down and does the work. He fulfilled his contract here in Detroit very well. He had outstanding seasons in here. And I'm telling you, Marvin Jones Jr. today is going to be one of those plays where I think you said it at the beginning of the broadcast, Mitch. It was staring you right in the face. It was flashing lights, and we didn't even see it. Marvin Jones and Visca can combine, this afternoon to put something together special for our DFS lines. But when you look from a GPP perspective, a big tournament, I don't necessarily think that there's much leverage to be gained from them in a tournament. I would think that stack is more so a cash game, which bums me out because we all love to have these wild off-the-wall GPP stacks. You can win a ton of money in those ones, but I'm fine with it. I'm fine with Jacksonville being my cash game set in stone kind of thing here. And look, Houston is, everybody all season's going to be picking on Houston. Everybody's going to be picking on Detroit. That's like a DFS, a casual DFS fan 101. You pick on bad defenses. And in this one, if it matters, Mitch, I have the final being Jacksonville putting up like 31 or 34 points in this one. So give me a lot of Jacksonville this afternoon in cash, obviously. And if you want to dabble in GPP, then pick your spots. Maybe I'm wrong, as I said moments ago. I'd be just a narcissistic dummy to think that what I say can sway ownership percentages. Not now, but maybe one day, Mitch.
You made a bunch of really good points. I'm going to touch on a couple. Number one, Houston just terrible, just absolutely wretched team, and they're going to be horrendous this year. And I'm sorry, there's no way they end up with more wins than Detroit. I think Detroit wins a few more games. They get a few more better players.
Well, thank you for
Houston
that.
Texans, the Aspari betting model here has them at an applied team total of 17. So 10,000 simulations were run, and their score on average for the 10,000 sims ended up being 17 points on the nose, which is 4.3 less than what the Vegas consensus has them around the industry. That is a B letter grade. So that is a great play today to take the Texans team under. That is also under on the total. And the money line for Jacksonville. Let's see. I've been blowing up and zooming in on my screen sizes. So the team, let's see, money line for Jacksonville We have them at minus 178. So out of 10,000 sims, they won 64% of the time when they were simulated. So they're a fine option. Now, here's the deal. You mentioned a bunch of these guys, and you talked about cash games. So one of my favorite things about cash is it's changed over the last year. And we started to see this actually in 2019, but no one was adapting. We did see it in 2020. People were adapting. I spend countless hours in lineup study, countless hours. And one thing that we've identified over the last year or so is that people are starting to stack small stacks in cash. But what they're not doing is game stacks. And this is one of those that could potentially be a nice cash stack because you're not looking at anybody from the Houston side. You're just saying, I really like Jacksonville because of X, Y, and Z. And what you're seeing a lot of people do is they're stacking players without their quarterback. So if you're looking at Lawrence, bang, you take him out. And then you're looking at Marvin Jones, you can take him out. Or excuse me, Laviska Shenault, and you can take him out. So when I hear BC say you can stack this team in cash games, I like this idea because you can use Marvin Jones, you can use James Robinson, and you have two players from the same team in cash. People will say this today, and I'm going to tell you right now. What's up, Check? Good luck in the Millie Maker. I'm sure you maxed it out, my dude. I love this guy. I'm sure you're going to hear people talk about it right now today. Oh, cash plays, good cash plays. But they're not going to tell you how to construct your cash lineups. This is okay because if you are playing cash correctly, you are predominantly playing head-to-heads. Don't let the tournament, don't let the field, don't let the public, don't let all these other shows tell you in cash games, enter all those double ups and 50-50s. No. It's 2021, my friends. You should be in 3-mans, 5-mans, an abundant amount of head-to-heads, and a smaller portion should be in your 50-50s and double ups. It's totally, butt backwards. They're telling you to play the wrong way if they're still telling you that. You can use guys like Robinson. You can use guys like Marvin Jones in your cash lineups from the same offense because these are target volume type people. Touchdown equity in Marvin Jones, guy that scored 6+ in 3 straight years. I think he'll get a fair amount of targets today. James Robinson is going to touch the ball 20 times. Why can't you use them in your head-to-heads? You still have to worry about outscoring 60% or more of your head-to-head opponents. You're not playing to only build a floor. You're worried about ceiling, and I think you get ceiling in both these options. Again, guys like Marquez Callaway, slam them in there. You're okay with them in cash games. You're okay with them in your head-to-heads. But large tournaments, I'm kind of trying to find my way out some of these more popular picks. Let's move on. I think we spent a lot of time on a game where there's not much to discuss. Let's slide over. We've got the Chargers at the football team here in Washington. And this is one of those games where there's literally just two players I want to talk about, and then I want to go. I want nothing to do with stacks in this game. Antonio Gibson, 5.9K on DraftKings, 15% ownership projection, a FanDuel 7K, awkward pricing. So we can talk about him a little bit later because how I like those awkwardly, those uncomfortably priced players at those awkward pricing. Terry McLaurin, I think, is not the guy I'm talking about. For me, it's Damian Brown, 3K on DraftKings, 4.7 on FanDuel. This kid looked electric this preseason when he had his chance. I like Damian Brown because everyone's talking about Rondell Moore. Everyone's talking about Terrace Marshall. Marvin Jones is being mentioned a lot more. And you're seeing, of course, Marquez Callaway 3-4. Would anybody be shocked today if Damian Brown goes out and does what everyone thought Curtis Samuel would do? 6 to 7 touches. Maybe they manufacture some of these. Who cares? If he breaks one, if he uses his athleticism and he gets down the field for a few catches. What if Damian Brown goes out there and gets, 5 for 80 and a score? You are rolling in it at a guy who's going to be 3% or less owned probably on both websites today. I love him. So for me, it's Damian Brown, and maybe you can use Antonio Gibson. I'm not touching Austin Eckler. I'm worried about the hamstring. I'm not touching McLaurin. I think his ownership's going to be semi up there, and I'm not stacking this game. Wonder where you are. Go ahead, tell me.
No, I'm with you 100%. I mean, I love the Washington football team, DST, but yeah, they're good, something together really special there, but that is meaningless right now in week 1. Justin Herbert, from a real life football standpoint, this might be my favorite game to watch Sunday, maybe because I'm a glutton for punishment, but this game just does something to me from a real life kind of fan perspective. From a DFS perspective, I'm with you 100%. When it talk about Damian Brown right now, I have the Team Rise or Fall, study hub up right now. What you love, what music it's music to my ears when someone says, you know what, this kid is going to be a stud, and then you check your lineups, Sunday night, and you hit for a large portion of money. And the one kid who kind of helped your lineup do that is Dyami Brown, and his ownership percentage reads like this: 0.1%. That means you and like 5 other people in the world had that kid on your roster. So get Dyami Brown in as many tournaments as you can. I'm telling you, at his price, it's little to no risk here with Dyami Brown. He was I'm bummed out, Mitch. I missed him for bottom of the barrel, but at the time, we didn't know how that stuff was going to shake out here. But
Right.
Dyami Brown is the definition of why I created that article. He is why, I love talking DFS with someone like you on a Sunday morning. It's just crazy to me, and patience pays off. Nobody was on Dyami Brown, and now we are. And I think it's a good move to get Dyami in your lineups this weekend. Simple as that.
Absolutely. So my man, the cool cat here on YouTube says, should I play Montgomery, Mostert, and Mixon PPR league? I think the easy play is Mixon. Going to get touches out of the backfield will be abundant. Will catch the football in the backfield, and honestly, he's just not going to rotate with anybody. Mostert might lose some touches to Trey Sermon. Montgomery might use some touches to Williams back there, or even Cohen if he's active today. I also want to mention to anybody who's like, man, I love fantasy football. Let's talk. At 10:30, Matt Schaub from Draft Sharks, one of the best season-long companies. They are year-round. All they do is fantasy football, okay? That's why we partnered with them. I made my draft kit free, and then all of our members get 50% off to their website. 50% off to their website if you're one of the teamriseorfall.com members. So if you are somebody who wants to talk some fantasy football, Matt will be here in about a half hour. He'll be here to talk some DFS. He will predominantly be here to also answer questions for fantasy football. So if you do have fantasy football questions and you're a big fantasy football fan, by all means, save those questions. When he's here, he's going to love them. He's going to love them. Give him a chance to talk about his wheelhouse. So, all right, we're moving a little bit quicker now. I like it. Let's move on. Miami, New England. This is another game where there's just no one here I want. One play, literally just one play in this entire game, and it's going to be from the tight end position. I love Mike Josecki. He looked great in the preseason, by the way. He had 2 catches over 40 yards. Two catches over 30 yards, 2 catches over 30 yards this preseason from the tight end position. Wild. And it's because of Tua. He was looking for him down the field and down the seam, where Josecki has always done well, going back to his days in Penn State. He's been somebody who gets down the field in a hurry. He's totally underrated, and I think this could be a monster year. I think he ended up as my 7th highest projected tight end for the season long. Mike Josecki, man, our projections have him super low owned. His projection is nothing special either. It's not like the projections or the model is on him, but I'm on him. I like him at 5.5K on FanDuel. I think he's a very good price over there because a lot of people are going to be going with, Kittle, Pitts, and Kelsey. And again, I want those other guys who are volatile and they're affordable. 5.5K for a tight end on FanDuel is nothing, and you can pay for that. And he is somebody who's shown that he's got some red zone prowess as well. So the one guy, literally the only one guy I want out of this game is Josecki. The only other guy I probably should bring up, and a lot of people will probably talk about him in cash today on FanDuel specifically, will be Damian Harris. On FanDuel today, Damian Harris is, I believe, off the top of my head, 5.8K. I don't want to get it wrong, so let me bring it up. Yes, on FanDuel, he's 5.8K. I think he's a fine FanDuel option because of his touchdown equity. But I'm slightly concerned, and I was thinking about it this morning before the show because I mentioned him on a Friday night show with Draft Sharks. I liked him in cash. I don't know how much I like him in cash anymore, and here's why. Ramondre Stevenson, man. This guy was a freaking bulldozer this preseason, and I am slightly worried that Belichick saw that and was like, there he is. There's my LeGarrette Blount 2.0. And I think that Stevenson could, I don't know. They'll probably give Harris the first crack. But would anybody be shocked today if Stevenson gets in there and, gets 2-3 carries inside the 5-yard line and they take Harris out, even though Harris got them down there? I would not be.
No, I'm with you. And I was going to mention, I was hoping you wouldn't mention Stevenson before you threw it to me or before I could talk, because I just want to quickly mention James White here. James White is on FanDuel. He's $4,800. Now, James White is a guy who he has a safe floor. So at his price, I know he's not the cheapest guy in the roster, or excuse me, on FanDuel right now. But if you look down through all the other running backs here, James White can, I think with a safe floor, he'll catch a couple balls. And everybody forgot about James White too. Look, he had a tough year last year. His mother died, I believe. His dad was on life support. And I'm telling you, New England, yes, D. Mills Miller. New England loves to spread the wealth at running back, but James White is still going to have that same kind of draw here, that same role here. He's going to catch some passes. And in this one, let me bring up my notes real quick. I just keep notes and stacks of those. Miami at New England. I have the final at about 27-21. A little bit over the top, but I get it. It's week 1. We want to get excited. We want to talk points in this one. So I wouldn't be shocked to see James White catch several passes, and I believe Mitch touched on it, and even on FanDuel, there is a little bit of PPR scoring in this one. So give me James White as kind of a last-second decision, right? If I'm building my lineups, GPP only, right? If I'm building my lines and I'm like, well, I got, $4,900. I don't know which way to go. Get James White in that role, because if you look back through the years, right, you have, as it stands now, D. Harris, Stevenson. These guys carry the rock, and they're just, I love both running backs, but to me, I've always looked at James White in New England as kind of, not matchup proof, but he's kind of, he's not fazed by that kind of workload because he has his own little separate workload. He's over on the sideline waiting to catch passes. He gets in the game. He's only asked to do one of two things: catch the ball and run with the ball. And that's it. So to me, I'm kind of not bothered with the, both, Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson here. So James White, probably discussed him too much. You brought me up on the big screen. Thought I had to carry the load here for a moment, Mitch.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, actually, so, one of the things I'm learning today, and I'm learning live, is how to host. I've never used this software to host anything. I hosted a private fantasy league for my buddies this past Wednesday using StreamYard. It was pretty fun. But I didn't really practice anything. So I was like, oh, shoot, I can put BC's face way up there.
I thought you were into it. I'm talking James White. And then I just, my entire face encompassed the screen. I go, maybe he's into, look, Mitch is really into James White. Maybe I don't know what he's into, but here I am, just me, the rise or fall banner back there. And let's go. Let's talk about James White for 20 minutes.
That's really funny, man. Well, hey, you did a great job. I like putting people on the spot, something I enjoy because I enjoy reactions out of people.
Feet to the fire.
People in chat, by the way, they know where we're going. They must have the study hub up. I freaking like that. They're talking about Minnesota and Cincinnati in chat on YouTube while you and I are discussing New England and Miami. That's pretty cool. Let's move to them. I'm going to toss you back up first. You're going to get a big face again. Why don't you just riff on this game specifically? And I'm going to get into the betting aspect right after, and we'll talk about a few of the plays, and we'll go from there.
Sweet. So Minnesota's at Cincinnati. By all purposes, it's not that exciting of a game here. And again, if I bring my notes up, I could share them with you. I write everything down, highlighted. Look at the tabs in there. I'm a madman. It's cool. I'm cool with that. So Minnesota at Cincinnati. I think Minnesota wins this game handedly. And you probably think, well, Chris, every time you talk about a player, you talk about a game, you go right to the, what your projected final score is. Well, I'm telling you, Vegas plays a large role in what I do. It's kind of the over-unders and the final score predictions are one of my many little puzzle pieces of my DFS foundation here. So as I said, I have Minnesota putting up about 31 or 27 points to Cincinnati's, let's say 17 to 20 points in this one. From a DFS perspective, Joe Mixon looks to be, let me bring it up, about 12.1% owned on FanDuel. Study Hub is fantastic. In all my years playing DFS, I've never had the ability like I do now with Mitch and Team Rise or Fall to just dig into looking at ownership percentages and the favorite stat combinations. So to me, Joe Mixon is going to be a fade for first and foremost, first week out after just a nasty year. He hurt people. He hurt people a lot, right? So to me, everybody's going to look at T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, stone hands. He said the football was too big. The white stripes weren't on there. I don't know. I don't want any part of it, at least in week 1. To me, the play is Tyler Boyd. And let me bring up, because Tyler Boyd was in bottom of the barrel this past week. Tyler Boyd is $5,900 on FanDuel, $5,200 on DraftKings, and he's $17 on Yahoo. Now, when you get a guy like, as I said, Tyler Boyd, I look at him and Marvin Jones the same in Jacksonville. I love the idea of, both of them in tandem in my lineups. And I'll tell you why. Joe Burrow is a young kid, right? He tore up his knee. He's looking for safety. And Cincinnati didn't do him any favors in the draft in terms of, they passed on Penny Sewell. They did this. Joe Burrow's going to be running for his life. And just like a young quarterback, they like to look for a safety blanket. Where can I go? Who can I trust? And I'm telling you right now, Jamar Chase is not that kid. T. Higgins is still going to be a stud, but he's still working some things out on the fly. So to me, it's Tyler Boyd. Early and often, I could see a case where, and this isn't going to be a popular opinion, but I could see him leading the team today in target share, just getting peppered with targets anywhere and everywhere, because the guy is steady Eddie. He does what's asked of him, and here we are. So Tyler Boyd, as I said, $5,900 on FanDuel, $5,200 on DraftKings. And if you look at his ownership percentages, Boyd is 4% on DraftKings, and then on FanDuel, only 3%. So to me, Tyler Boyd is one of those puzzle pieces in our GPP lineups this weekend, Mitch.
Yeah, and here's one of them I actually wanted to bring up here is what Pat Kingpin said in chat. T. Higgins is showing up in a lot of my crunches. Yeah, that's right. So let me bring this up before we get going. I'm going to take another opportunity. Why? I got 160 people watching, and I'm going to do it. Okay, so here we are. This is the subscribe now page. If you want to know what we're all about, I'm dropping it in chat. And why am I bringing this? Where's the transition here, my friends? Well, he brought up crunches. So one of the coolest things is every single person who is a member of our website, teamriseorfall.com, ends up getting $20 to use on Fantasy Cruncher every single month. How dope is that? And then if you are currently an FC user, my friends, this applies to you, which means you are adding us for just $9.99 a month if you're taking off that $20 because you're using that $20 credit on your current membership. Math is easy. Now, that's not true. Now, the rest of what we offer is mostly going to be contingent on what you want, right? We give you the who, but we focus on the how and the why. That's kind of our goal. Now, one of the things I wanted to bring up after that little pitch, can't help myself, I need to do it here and there, is this is just week one, and we've got a lot of people watching. Pat Kingpin brought up T. Higgins showing up in his crunches. So we upload our projections into FC. You use the download projection page. You simply just type in, or you simply just go to the projections page itself. You click DraftKings, you click download. Boom, it shows up. It's on your desktop. It's in your download file. You go back to Fantasy Cruncher. You go over to DraftKings, click upload data, and you can upload the file itself that you just downloaded from our site. And while I'm talking, I just showed everybody a really smooth way to upload your projections. It did it in all of 10 seconds while I'm talking, and I've got my projections in there, okay? So if you want to check it out, you can use promo code NFL50. That is just $15 for your first month. Thanks for tuning in today and supporting us and giving me an opportunity to kind of highlight who we are, because I know while this is the first big stream we've had on YouTube as we switched from Twitch, there's probably a lot of people who are just checking us out for the first time. Now, crunches, T. Higgins, he has a fine cash option. In fact, I think he's probably a top 3 cash option for me today, along with Marquez Callaway and Marvin Jones, Devonta Adams, Tyreek Hill. I'm probably picking 3 of those 5 for cash on DraftKings, and then I'll go 3 running backs in my flex. And T. Higgins, a fine cash option. But if you wanted to get a little bit different, especially if you're playing more head-to-heads today, which I think you should, I actually like the idea of paying a few more doll hairs to go up to Tyler Boyd at 5.2 in cash, because I think just like you, Joe Burrow not going to be protected, going to have to get the ball out quickly. Who benefits the most from that? Tyler Boyd does in those underneath routes. I think he can get 10, 12 targets today, 8 to 10 catches. And if he can rack up the yards, maybe get lucky, score a tutty, you're happy as a clam at 5.2. Now, the rest of this game, I'm actually on the other side of the ball. And I saw Porter mention that as well. I like this side of the ball because of this reason. I'm going to tell you right now, it's all about those touchdowns. It's all about the focused fantasy production. This is a target funnel offense, right? You've got Tyler Conklin at tight end, Irv Smith gone. No real third wide receiver. Chad Beebe, these guys, Olabisi Johnson, I think his name is. Just no one really steps up to the point where they give you household value. There's no third option here in the passing game. This guy, Kirk Cousins, has a top 25 all-time touchdown rate. You heard me right. A top 25 all-time touchdown rate. And now he has 2 guys who I think he'll give the ball, 10 to 12 times each today. And they're both efficient pass catchers. We're talking 66, 69% catch rates last year. If they're getting 12 targets at that rate, we're talking 8 receptions each today. And, that could be their floor, my friend. So I think you have an interesting opportunity where these guys both return PPR value, both return, touchdown equity. And I love this 3-person stack, run it back with someone like Boyd on the other side. And again, don't be concerned about average player remaining. There's so many options out there today to, give yourself enough money to be able to make this happen. You can go all the way down here, Falcons defense 2K, or if you don't want to be on the chalky defense, what the heck, just go with the Bills at 2.5. The Jaguars against a quarterback who's thrown multiple touchdowns, just 4 out of his 45 starts, in Tyrod Taylor. He has one 300-yard passing game his entire career, Tyrod Taylor. So go and roll out the Jags defense, and look at that. Now all of a sudden you're up to 5.2K. You're back in it. You got all the salary in the world. Go get a tight end like, and I'm gonna bring him up when we get to the stacks later. Dan Arnold at 2.6K, who got 3 targets in a half of football for Carolina when they had their starters in there in week 3 of the preseason. And now all of a sudden you've got all this money left over. You can easily jam in the rest of your player positions. So it's not like this is a tough stack to start with. I don't think this will be a high-owned stack. In fact, I think you will see some Cousins ownership, 5% or less today, and you'll see the stack include Justin Jefferson often, maybe Thielen a little bit less. But how often will you see people put both in there? I don't think you will. I think a lot of people go, like Cousins, give me Cousins, and just give me one of the two. I think you can differentiate by going with both of them. Let's keep going. We're in the zone right now, so I want to keep moving as fast as we can now before Matt comes in here. Jets and Carolina. I'm going to go ahead and show this quickly without really analyzing too much. I love this game for the stacking ability, and as weird as that sounds, I think it's actually a game where could be some phenomenal stack opportunities because of focused targets. I love those focused targets. Now, if you're looking at it from this perspective, I think you could go with Dan Arnold. And then, you've got the focused targets on the Jet side of the ball with, you've got, where do you go? Elijah Moore and Corey Davis. These guys are 2 of 4 healthy active wide receivers. I believe they have to bring up a 5th from the practice squad today if Keelan Cole misses. Let me type in his name because it's hard to do this while I'm talking. Elijah Moore at 3K. So you've got an opportunity here to have a nice game stack. And again, we talked about the uncomfortable range of wide receivers today. It's going to be that like mid-tier priced players. So a lot of people are looking at Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore. A lot of people love Terrace Marshall. I think you can just get different, maybe go with Robbie Anderson, who I think has the highest touchdown equity. You could do something like this in a Millie Maker. And I like this opportunity. It gives you 7-2 left to finish your stack. If you're using a cheap defense, you're going to have 9K left over for 3 more positions, 9K each. I mean, the world is your oyster. If this stack hits and, this game ends up being, and it doesn't need to be 38 to 35 for this to pay off because, there's only so many guys who are going to score for the Jets. I think Corey Davis and Elijah Moore could be those guys. And if you hit right with the Carolina side and a Millie Maker, you've got 9K left over for 3 more positions each. You're building a nice floor and ceiling combination outside your stack. And if your stack hits, you're rolling in it.
Mitch, I want to tell you man-to-man really quick. I was waiting for an opportunity last time you're speaking. This is what you're saying the last, the entire broadcast. This is why I'm so, excited and prideful to be here with Team Rise or Fall. I know a lot of other folks. They're good at what they do. They enjoy what they do, but it's all meat and potatoes. There's nothing wrong with meat and potatoes, but I know a lot of DFS players who consider themselves professional DFS players or websites who charge an arm and a leg for an optimizer, and they're doing all the bells and whistles, and they don't really help and focus on a per user basis. When you were going through the Minnesota Cincinnati, where don't worry about how much money you have left over, one cheap selection will kind of raise it back up again. People don't talk that way when they're speaking to other members. People don't, give that kind of advice to large groups of folks because it's all about, this is what I want you to do and this is how you're going to do it. And there's no explanation in the meantime. So thankful to be a part of Team Rise or Fall for that. That's all I've ever tried to do. And I know that's all you've tried to do. That's why we're like kind of kindred spirits. And you said doll hairs. My grandma used to say that. That's crazy to me. But from this game, several bottom of the barrel players players mentioned in this one. To me, Sam Darnold, he is $6,500 on FanDuel, $5,000 on DraftKings. I love the idea of sacking Sam Darnold with DJ Moore. That's one. The second one, which is probably my most favorite, it'll be fruitful and it's not going to cost you much, is rookie dynamo Zach Wilson, $6,500 on FanDuel, $5,000 on DraftKings, with who I think this weekend and for the foreseeable future is going to be a target hog, Corey Davis, $5,800 on FanDuel, $4,900 on DraftKings. Now, I know when you talk about Sam Darnold, the revenge game narrative, I can't stand that. It's a buzzword that, when people talk like that, that's all they got left to say, right? They can't dig in anymore. So we'll go from there. But Zach Wilson, he's looked good this preseason, and it looks like the Jets aren't afraid to let this kid sling it, and that's what he does best. He's got a golden arm, a cannon, however you want to put it. So as I said, the Jets go to Carolina. Carolina's 20th overall against opposing quarterbacks. And again, give me Corey Davis. I know early in the chat, I saw, people talking and saying Jamison Crowder is out, Elijah Moore, who makes for a nice little, if you want a 3-man stack, right? With Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, and Zach Wilson. I'm telling you now, I put my money where my mouth is. I always say this. I would never write anything in an article, or I would never tell anybody in a live video to do something I wouldn't do myself. I'm going to raise my hand right now. I have a lot of Carolina, New York Jets stacks as we stand now. I see no issue stacking this game. People think from an outside perspective, they see the Jets, they're like, ooh, gross, I don't want. No, listen, this is a new season. Last year was last year. So get with it now, and let's put something special together in week 1. So I'm going to have heavy Sam Darnold, heavy Zach Wilson, and I'm going to sprinkle in the position players for me in this one. I love the idea of Zach Wilson, Corey Davis with, as I said, Zach Wilson, Corey Davis, and Elijah Moore. Excuse me. And I know I don't want to derail the broadcast. I know we're trying to move it along here. But to me, my favorite combo stack this weekend is the New York Football Jets and the Denver Broncos. I'll leave it at that.
I appreciate you very much, Chris. I like what you bring to the table. I see people in chat right now saying something very similar. They're talking about us. And our chemistry on screen today has been pretty solid. So listen, sounds like people are enjoying our first broadcast together. I'm enjoying myself immensely. And I want to bring up some of the stuff people are saying in chat because it means a lot to me. And I want to be serious with you. And I've always been super transparent. I mean, I've been posting, my Excel sheets of like what my total investment was in 2020, how much I made. And I've done that for 2-3 years now on Twitter. I show everybody like 1099s and stuff. And I want people to know, like, people can share all sorts of knowledge, all sorts of information, tell people how and why, and they're not giving away their edge. The edge will always be there. I don't believe that there's no edge left. The edge will always be there. Does it shrink? Does it shift? Yeah, it does. And part of that's just baked into, how people have adapted to the industry. But there's always going to be an edge. There's always going to be an edge because you create them. Right? I mean, you have to create the edge sometimes. And that's one thing I love to do and try to find little ways to create the edge. Pay attention to what the industry is doing and then shift what you do based on that. You can pivot from the industry. And one of my favorite things about what we do with my team and what we do inside our company is we teach, right? I left a 13-year teaching career to do this right here with you and all the people watching today. It's to be here on screen, be inside Discord with our, we had 1,700 people in there before I lost access. We have over 700 already after 8 days in the new one. Our members are very, very energetic. They're very family driven. It's a very strong community, and I'm humbled to the core every single day. And today, I was intrigued. Last year we had between 200 and 400 congruent viewers across the platforms last year, every single week for NFL. But that was after 2 years of building a following on Twitch. I was concerned today, Chris, and people watching. I was concerned for the first stream on YouTube. Were we going to get back those people? Were they going to find us? And I see over here on Twitch right now, there's 30 or so people still watching on Twitch. I hope you all understand. We've been on YouTube for a month. Please come back to us. We miss you. I see the 150 or so on YouTube. I see a half dozen on Twitter. So people are watching across the interwebs, and I appreciate you all no matter where you showed up. I hope you come back on YouTube next week. We've been streaming daily at 1 p.m. I do lineup rewind, lineup study for about 3 days a week, and then we try to enact what we've learned for the final couple days. It's a daily thing every single day here on YouTube. I appreciate all the people. I have not said at one time the entire stream, I have not said, hey, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. That's something I'm supposed to be saying. It's very uncomfortable for me. I don't want to like engagement farm, right? And I'm supposed to do it. And I suppose to an extent, me bringing it up right now is that. And I'm okay with it. I'm getting more comfortable doing it. But I wanted to say before I did, to the 148 or whatever it is watching on YouTube right now, 65 people had already liked the stream, and I never said at one time. That is incredibly humbling to me because, my goodness, you did that out of the goodness of your own heart. You probably understand that that is very supportive for a company, because what it does, and I'm speaking SEO here now, but what that does is it moves us up the rankings for Sunday morning now. And now people are seeing our stream being suggested across YouTube as they're browsing YouTube, looking for content, looking to get some help and some support. And you've just allowed us to move up the rankings today and be there for other people. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'm humbled. And another person I'm thankful for is Matt Schaaf. And I'm bringing him here into the live stream right now. My dude, what's up, my friend?
Hey,
because
man.
Matt, what's up, man? Matt and his company ended up partnering with Team Rise or Fall this offseason and said all Team Rise or Fall members, you get 50% off access to their year-round fantasy football content. And I am so thankful for Matt, who also brought me onto their Draft Sharks show and podcast, who I know have thousands upon thousands of listeners. They are a massive company who has been established as one of the, almost you could look at them as like a founder of fantasy football, going all the way back to what it was in 1999. They've been around forever, and they have adapted with the times from magazine to online and updating their website, and they are an incredible company. And Matt is one of the centerpieces of Draft Sharks. So as I bring you in here, Matt, I took a few minutes to say hi to people and tell them thank you. Why don't you go ahead, tell the people what you do, tell a little bit about Draft Sharks, how the people can get the access if they're Team Rise or Fall members to your site. And, today I told them also at 10:30, you were going to have an opportunity to go ahead and talk, fantasy football, talk your favorite picks. And if they had fantasy football questions, I was going to put you on the spot, my dude. I told them that you would answer start sit questions, things like that. So you have the floor for a couple minutes here, and then we'll see how chat livens up for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to stop blushing first. I wasn't expecting to come on here and get praised from the start. That's you caught me a little off guard, but yeah, I appreciate all the kind words. I think we're all on the spot from here on now. I feel like I've been on the spot since at least July, when everybody got back to drafting like we had been doing for a while. Everything is live on draftsharks.com now. We just switched over to regular season mode within the past week or so, getting all of the regular season tools going. We've got DFS tools, lineup generator. We've got the full season tools, trade partner navigator, free agent finder, and my teams. We want to help everybody set their best possible lineup. We want to put our projections to work and let our users customize them to fit their own teams. That's the purpose of the My Teams page. So we do our projections every week, but you set your league settings in there so you can get them catered to fit your league. That's kind of our biggest goal here. I also handle the IDP stuff. So if anybody has any questions about defensive starters, I handle that as well. Later this morning in the Draft Sharks Discord, we'll be doing a start sit, my first start sit Q&A of the year. So anybody who has access to draftsharks.com now, you can find everything you need as a DS insider, regular season, preseason features, whatever. If you're still drafting today, that'd be crazy if you're still drafting, but we got you covered if you're ready there too. That's it. Lots of stuff going on, and we're ready for this regular season to start. I'm ready to spend the day, Mitch, being both excited and disappointed by all the calls that I made preseason.
Yeah, I hear you. It's time for us to just fully immerse ourselves into all things football, the excitement, the energy that comes with it, the chat excitement. I'm looking at chat. I was looking on the side where you were chatting, and just an crazy amount of support right now. And I'm literally like physically humbled. Like I feel, I'm actually like I felt my voice like shaking a little bit. It's always meant so much to me, because coming from teaching, going to this, it's like are my things that I learned over the last 13 years going to transfer over? I feel like it's I don't know. I've never feel like I deserve it. So when I see it, it humbles me, and I don't know how to talk about it, right? So hearing Matt come on here and just kind of alleviate some of the pressure right now, I was thankful to give him the screen and blow his face up there. Matt, I wanted to say I used and I didn't tell my league mates, and I feel dirty and icky for doing it. I used the draft helper that you guys have there, where I'm able to go in there and you guys had all sorts of tools and things set up where I'm able to have like my rankings and all sorts of stuff up there. And it helped me go through and just organize my thoughts, have a long-term view while I'm drafting. I love that you guys are so heavily, I'd say like 90% focused on like just supporting the user into the draft. And then you totally switch gears and it's like, we got you now from week to week. Make sure you guys are connected for fantasy football. So I think that's cool stuff. Listen, Matt, here's where we are today. And we have been going game by game. And I figure we just kind of dive into the next few games. We've got Philly, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Seattle, Indy, and San Francisco, Detroit for the main slate. And they are chock full of fantasy options today. So why don't I go ahead and I'm going to give Beastie the first question here, Chris. When you're looking at this Philly and Atlanta game, this is an interesting game for a DFS perspective, and it's a great one for fantasy football perspective as we switch over to Matt next. Where are you sitting on this game? Is this something you're stacking up? And if you are you on a specific side of the ball? Where are you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm all on the Philadelphia side of the ball. Just looked out. I mean, this is simple, easy information. It's nice to meet you, by the way, Matt. Do a virtual handshake here. So when you go on the Philly side of the ball, everything is in the green in terms of DVP. That's the easy thing to find. Atlanta is 32nd overall against opposing wide receivers. That makes Devonta Smith a massive smash for me, also in bottom of the barrel. They're 29th against opposing tight ends, which makes Dallas Goedert, even Zach Ertz. When's the last time on a live stream or in an article anybody's ever been a proponent of double stacking tight ends from the same team? It's unheard of. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say I'm going to select two tight ends from the same team. If there's any time to do it, it's this week. Dallas Goedert, who is, let me look, he's $5,900 on Fanduel, a little expensive but well worth it, and Zach Ertz, $5,000, who seems to be the forgotten man. He's been trade rumors. Is he going to split? You know what? I don't care this week. How wild would it be to stack Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, and both tight ends in this one? Yeah, you would burn your flex spot on a tight end, but hey, crazier things have done if you want to win some big time cash in this one. From the Atlanta Falcons side of the ball, realistically, the only kid I'm on here is Russell Gage. Philly is 25th overall against opposing wide receivers, $5,700, and with the departure of Julio Jones, I could see a case where Russell Gage is not going to. He absolutely is going to be bumped up in some sort of target share in this one. You'd like to see Calvin Ridley get 25 targets in a game. Not realistic. I'm kind of blowing that out of proportion. But Russell Gage could see what, Mitch, 10 to 12 targets in this one, and why not?
Oops, my bad. Matt, to you, my friend, when you're looking at this game, as far as, a fantasy football perspective, not just for DFS, what type of ranking does Ridley get when you're comparing all these elite wide receivers who are all available in week one? We're not worried about buys. Is Ridley somebody who is kind of popping off your page? Like if you were looking at Ridley as a PPR option versus a standard option, is he at the top of your rankings? Is he near the top? I mean, where's he landing for you today?
Yeah, I would say he's top 5 right up there with, Devontae Adams. I almost got focused on the wrong Devontae with this game, but yeah, right up there, top 5. That's why we drafted him where we did. He's starting the season with a positive matchup. Even Darius Slay is not anything scary for our wide receivers. So there should be lots of targets for Calvin Ridley in this one. It would be great for all of us if this game turns into a shootout. We'll see if Jalen Hurts has any struggles that helps Atlanta jump out to a lead. I think it helps make the Atlanta defense a solid play. But just heading into this game, I think we should expect plenty of points. All the pass catchers look good at their respective levels. I'm certainly factoring in Calvin Ridley among the lead options, though.
Yeah, so you mentioned Devonta Smith. Let's go back there. Where do you guys have him for your rankings this week? And is he somebody who you would look at over other similarly priced players like Laviska Shenault, Michael Pittman, Marvin Jones Jr. We've got Jamar Chase. They're all very similar pricing on DraftKings within $1,000 or so. Where does Devonta Smith land for you in that realm?
Yeah, we have Devonta Smith right around the bottom of wide receiver 3 territory, but he's a tough one because the consideration, the concern, I guess, is that, they don't throw it more than, say, 30 times, and he gets 20% of that, and it's just kind of a quiet day in terms of volume. But maybe he doesn't. Maybe he gets a third of the targets, and then even if they're throwing just 30 times, that's 10 targets for Devonta Smith in a positive matchup that we already talked about. So he's somebody that I'd be willing to reach a little bit for in the range where he's projected. And I just checked the updated fan share ownership projections on our site. 3.6% on DraftKings. So I think that makes him especially interesting today, especially if I'm interested in playing Jalen Hurts. And it's a way to run it back versus those Falcons guys that might be higher owned in their DFS lineups. You can still play Calvin Ridley at his nearly 20% or whatever his final ownership ends up being and get the uniqueness back by playing Devonta Smith on the other side. Hope for that shootout potential in that game.
Yeah, one stack I actually want to bring up specifically, and maybe I'm kind of alone here, but I'm not really looking at Matt Ryan today. I'm not really looking at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is somebody I probably use as a standalone option. I'm not really trying to force in any stacks. I think why is because there's going to be a lot of ownership on Ridley. Kyle Pitts is super popular. So I'm not on these games and large field tournaments, which is primarily what I play today. I'm not on some of these guys who are going to be higher owned. Again, I led off the show trying to get off of Kyle Pitts, going to Noah Fant, plays like that. So when I look at this, I do want exposure still, but I'm not looking for like full game stacks. So the one cool thing we have on the website for the stacks tool is the double stacks, right? So you've got an opportunity to put together Devonta Smith and Calvin Ridley. They have a phenomenal stack rating of 123. That is way up there. It's affordable because of Devonta Smith's price tag being just 4.5K. And, I talked about this on your show on Friday night. I could not stop retweeting the Devonta Smith highlight films through, I understand it was practice, but I don't care. You watch him run routes at his rookie year already, and this kid looks like he is just so exceptional at route running, which primarily is when we see some of these rookie wide receivers really, really start to explode later in the season is when they start to learn the little nuances of the position at the NFL level. I feel like Devonta Smith has come in, and I'm no game scout or anything. I'm not going to claim to be, but I feel like he's come in. Not only does he have the elite athleticism, not only does he have the opportunity with Jalen Hurts, but I think he's come in prepared to enter as that wide receiver 1. And I mentioned it on Friday, and I know you and Jared were both sitting there going, wow, that's interesting, Mitch. But I said, I think he's this year's Justin Jefferson. He drafted around the same area as last year, drafted this year in the 60s to 70s ADP, and I think he's got that type of upside. Chris, you've been the silent one in the corner. Nobody puts Baby in the corner. No one puts Chris in the corner. Let's hear from you, dude.
No one puts Beastie in a corner. I think that's what you're getting at here. Yeah, when it comes to it, look, if you look at the chat really quick, I love to reference this. Chris, great name, Chris Galligan, Smith plus Ridley plus Pitts. Just play all of them. They'll get all the targets. Absolutely, but the secret is out. Everybody on earth is going to be on beyond those three here. But when it comes to this game in general, I'm taking Philly plus the points, and I'm going to stack the absolute heck out of the Philly Eagles in this one. I just don't see a world where Calvin Ridley, his price, as you said, $8,100. It's not insane to me, but from an edge perspective, I know we've mentioned edge and trying to get over or take advantage of other folks, on DFS and DFS platforms this weekend. But to me, Calvin Ridley is a guy. Let me bring up the study hub real quick. Let's look at it. Calvin Ridley going to be up over 20% owned on FanDuel. It's sitting at about 15% owned on DraftKings here. So I don't think there's anything to be gained rostering Calvin Ridley in DFS formats. Obviously, in seasonal formats, he was a second round draft selection, something along those lines. So to me, I think I'm going to fade Atlanta altogether and run with Philadelphia and see what it gets me.
Yeah, that's a nice play. I'm on the Philly side if I'm using anybody really stacks wise, like Jalen Hurts. Maybe this is a good question for you too, Matt. And just those two guys probably similarly ranked within a few spots of each other. Where do you guys have Hurts and where do you have Matt Ryan for your quarterback rankings this week?
Let me check so that I don't tell you the wrong thing. But I think that we have Hurts significantly ahead because of the rushing, just raising his floor. I'm certainly playing Hurts easily ahead of Matt Ryan if I'm choosing between them, really regardless of format, because they give you the rushing gives you the floor that you want in season long. I think the rushing also gives you the ceiling that you're looking for DFS wise. Yeah, we have Matt Ryan not even inside the top 12 this week. There might be a couple of guys ahead of him in our rankings that I would actually play him over. Justin Herbert is a guy that scares me a little bit today with his matchup at Washington, just because I think he has more downside than others. But Matt Ryan, not an exciting option for me. I'm more willing to bet on his pass catchers, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, even Russell Gage to some degree, because I think that the target volume will be there for those guys. I'm not ready to bet right away on the overall collected passing stats for Matt Ryan in this first season since 2010 without Julio Jones around.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot up in the air for this game. It's definitely worth spending a little bit of time on because I think it could be one of those games that ends up being like 60 points. I mean, would anybody be shocked if neither team plays any defense today? Atlanta Falcons are one of the highest projected owned defenses at min price, the Stone Cold 2K min price tag over there on DraftKings. Use them in cash games, but in tournaments, my friends, get off of them. I mean, there's potential here where they can rack up some sacks and interceptions, but that's it. Maybe these top off at 5, 6, 7 points. That's not going to win you a tournament. You're looking for a pick six. You're looking for a strip sack, returning for a touchdown, something like that. Can the Falcons do that? Yeah, sure, they can, but there's 25 other options. Don't pick the chalky defense, one of the most volatile positions in DFS. I did want to bring up this. We actually have Yahoo projections and ownerships. And Matt Ryan, although he is lower ranked for both you guys and us, he has just 4% ownership. And I like the idea of using those really low-owned players on Yahoo because here's what's going to happen today for Yahoo DFS players. They're going to go in there and they're going to just upload projections. They're not going to spend too much time because it's probably not their primary place to play. And what they're going to do with the uploaded projections, they're going to set up their stacks and all that stuff, and they're going to crunch out their lineups. And it's going to lead to the same people that almost everybody else in the industry is. If you just spend a modicum amount of time on Yahoo specifically, and you're like, why not I just get off a little bit of the chalk, which Jalen Hurts, by the way, today is one of the highest value projected players over there because of his price tag. Get off of some of those types of stacks and bump up players like Matt Ryan, whom on any given day has 300-yard, 2-3 touchdown potential. Use a guy like that at a fraction of the ownership, and you have an opportunity to make some serious quiche. And Yahoo's got some nice looking tournaments over there today. Let's move on to the next game, my friends. I appreciate your analysis here. Pittsburgh Buffalo. I'm going to mute my mic because honestly, if you guys let me talk about this game, it's going to be, Bills are scoring 48 points. Josh Allen, lock of the century. So I'm gonna let two non-biased people talk about this game. My following already knows where I am.
Well, Chris, I'll let you go first.
Oh, sure. Well, to me, in this game, this game couldn't be any more easy from kind of a projection standpoint or where we think the game is going to head. From what I see, as Mitch said, Josh Allen, lock of the century. Although Pittsburgh is second overall against opposing quarterbacks, should I even said that because Josh Allen is Josh Allen. I mean, a cannon for an arm. In terms of the wide receivers, not much to be gained here from a DFS perspective. Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis is a nice play, $4,900 on Fanduel. Buffalo's 8th overall against opposing wide receivers. When you go to the Pittsburgh side of things, I've always, Mitch, I'm not too sure. I would imagine that you're a Buffalo Bills fan, right? Where you live and what you're up to. When you go to the Pittsburghs, I just didn't want to trash Buffalo in knowing that you're right above me and you control the microphone and my camera here.
That's a wise business decision.
Thank you. So when you look at the Pittsburgh side of things, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, I know this isn't a seasonal fantasy show, so I'm not going to get into that stuff. I'll save some stuff for Matt here. But Najee Harris is going to command a large target share from the running back position. How do we kind of, decipher the three-headed monster that is the wide receivers here? Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster. Of those three, I would prefer Chase Claypool. Maybe I'm crazy. He's $600 less than Deontay Johnson on FanDuel, and I have them separated by fractions of a point for DFS formats. But what I love in this one, and maybe it's off the wall, but that's what I tend to be good at here, is Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth is $4,400 on FanDuel, $2,500 on DraftKings, and Buffalo is 31st overall against opposing tight ends. And look, Pat Freiermuth is one of those kids who looked phenomenal in the preseason, scored I think several touchdowns, throughout the length of the preseason here. Anybody's ever heard of the Kansas City Shuffle? That means that when people zig, you zag. I'm zigging to Pat Freiermuth this weekend, and his price is just so sweet. And look, you're not expecting the world from the kid. At his price, it's kind of a low risk, high reward. If he puts up a goose egg, you're okay. You can survive. Mitch said it earlier. You're not dead in the water if Pat Freiermuth puts up a goose egg or 1 or 2 points here. But if he catches 3 or 4 balls, gets 40, 50 yards, that's sweet all in itself. But if he scores a touchdown, that's when you're in the money. That's how you can get over on folks, given his price, given his ownership percentage. I mean, it's just too good to be true for me this weekend from a Pat Freiermuth perspective.
I got to say, for me on the Steelers side, Najee Harris interests me the most because I know he's getting touches. It's tough for me. I like the low ownership projections on all the Pittsburgh wideouts, but not knowing what the target distribution is going to be and not really knowing exactly what their pass run split is going to be, just kind of with all of the options out there, it makes me lean toward just not playing those guys rather than picking the wrong one. I'm not a max lineup kind of player on Sunday, so I don't have just exposure to everybody. So I got to whittle it down and go for my favorites here. And I would kind of rather be out because I don't think Pittsburgh is going to score a ton of points in this game, so I'm not worried about missing a week-winning performance from one of those wideouts. I do like Najee Harris, as I said, because I think he's priced well under the touches that we expect from him. And even if Pittsburgh wins, or even if Pittsburgh loses this game pretty handily, I think Najee Harris should still be doing pretty well on both targets and carries and should produce at the level. I think the matchup got better for him with Starlo Tulele, the defensive tackle, being out for Buffalo. It already was not a scary rushing matchup. So a good spot for him. On the Buffalo side, I think for DFS, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are just going to be a little bit too highly owned for my taste, especially because I think there is some downside to this matchup. If I'm betting it, I bet that Buffalo wins this game. I'm not sure if I'm on the line as big as it is, but I do think there's a little bit more downside than the ownership projections for those guys are baking in.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the betting models themselves actually are where you are. The game's going to be much closer. I believe the spread shrunk for our model by 4 points. Buffalo consensus favorite at 6.5. The model only has them at -2.5. So that is intriguing. The game should be a little bit closer than you think. And I think a lot of that has to do with Najee Harris, and you nailed it, Matt. It's, they're going to get the ball 20, 25 times today, right? And if they're going to be attacking the softness of the Bills, which is literally the only one, and it's barely any soft. We all know they're literally the best team ever in history. But if anybody's going to slow the Bills down in any way, shape, or form, they're going to cram the ball down their throats. And it's going to keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hand for a few less possessions, whatever it might be. I want to say, Chris, Robin, thank you so much for being with us for almost 2 hours today. I know you've got multiple other podcasts today. I'm going to throw you in a solo layout. If you want to say anything on your way out here for the Rise or Fall family, who you've spent, what is it? A total of probably 2 hours of videos, 4 or 5 different articles, hours upon hours in Discord chatting with people, and you posting stuff everywhere around the internet for us. If you just want to say anything on the way out the door, by all means, send out your message, my friend.
No, I'm not going anywhere, so don't take this message as I am leaving and never coming back. I don't take the responsibility lightly that you've given me here, Mitch, and everything that I do is to help and better other folks in terms of DFS. All I've ever tried to do is share my process and method, and you have made it, abundantly clear that there is no, you're not going to hold me back from a creative standpoint. That has always been a non-negotiable. Let me spread my wings. Let me, be wild with my DFS takes and my articles. And to be fair, I couldn't have drawn it up any better from the Team Rise or Fall family. Everybody's accepted me with open arms, and it's a two-way street. There's a responsibility here that you have placed on me, and all the members at Team Rise or Fall have placed on me. And again, I don't take that lightly. I want to get out what I have to get out in a good, calm manner, and people have taken to it. So I appreciate all the likes, all the views, all the little conversations, all the DMs and text messages and emails. And again, it's only week one. We're like 2 hours away from kickoff. There's a lot left to do this season, not going anywhere. So I appreciate working with you, Mitch, and the entire Team Rise or Fall family for the long haul here. It's just an absolutely fantastic work environment in terms of like creativity and sharing ideas and thoughts. I mean, I've never been a part of something like this, so I appreciate it very much. And thank you for having me. And it's great to meet you, Matt.
Hey, you too.
What a great send-off. My goodness. Chris, enjoy your day, my man.
I will. I'll see you, boys.
All right, Matt, let's move on. Seattle, Indy. This is another game where there could be explosive offensive potential, but is it the amount that you want, and is it lucrative enough, especially in DFS terms, to be targeting? I'm intrigued to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this one a little bit on Friday night on both shows. Anytime Russell Wilson's involved and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Chris Carson that we both like this week, I think it's definitely potentially lucrative. I'd be a little bit more apprehensive on the Indianapolis side of it. Maybe Michael Pittman as kind of a run back option if you do expect Russell Wilson and either or both of his receivers to pop off. But I would rather not bet too much on the Colts in this first game back from the foot surgeries for both Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson. They're both playing, so that's good for everybody on offense. But I would rather exercise a little bit of apprehension on that side. The thing that I like is the explosiveness of Seattle. There's some downside risk to the Colts defense, but if I'm choosing, I'm betting on Russell Wilson over betting against him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm honestly only on a couple plays in this game, even though I know this is one where a lot of people are saying this could be interesting. You know, this team is set up for a nice looking offensive day. But the problem is they're all kind of priced as such, right? I mean, you look at their price tags compared to other teams and other positions in the industry, and it's just hard to be there. I mean, DK Metcalf 7.5. You know, now you're getting close to the price where why don't I just go get Devontae Adams? Why don't I go get Tyreek Hill? And these guys have 45-point upside, which they both hit last year. DK Metcalf, does he have that? I mean, maybe once in a great while he can get up there. I mean, we saw a 43-point game in week 8, but mostly we're talking 27 or less. So you're getting to a price tag where is he kind of priced at his value, even if he has a great game? I think he is. Tyler Lockett, similarly priced at 6.7. You know, Russell Wilson, the one guy I'm intrigued in this game outside of him is Chris Carson, whom we talked about. And I think, you know, circling back to the awkward pricing that I brought up in the beginning of the stream on guys like Raheem Mostert, right? You'd have got super comfortable picks in Antonio Gibson and Joe Mixon and James Robinson. And then you kind of have Najee Harris, whom you love, Chris Carson, whom I love, that we both love, who are just weirdly priced. And they're uncomfortable decisions to like, hey, I'm investing my money in these guys today. But would anybody be shocked today, chat, would anybody be shocked to see Chris Carson get 2 touchdowns, to see Najee Harris get 120 total yards and a couple scores? I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked to see both these guys erupt today due to their volume. And while the rest of the industry says, well, because there's so much value everywhere, I'm using Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara. You could be so different by using 2 guys who might not have the talent, but they sure do have the opportunity to have the same type of outcome today. Matt, when you are looking at quarterbacks at the top of your rankings, I'm sure that guys like Russell Wilson are up there in the mix with other players like Jalen Hurts. How do you like to differentiate who you are rolling out there in your DFS lineups when you're talking about these quarterbacks that have a very similar range of outcome?
I mean, I guess if the pricing doesn't separate them for me, I certainly look at the ownership percentage to some degree for those guys, but it's more about building out the rest of it and who I like best as stacking options for me. That is really the easiest way to sort them, I think. The expense of those stacking options, the chance that they're going to actually dominate targets so that I can count on them. Like I said before, I'm not anywhere near a max entry guy, so I'm looking for my favorites, the ones that I really believe in, as opposed to just spreading it around and seeing what happens.
That's awesome. And you know what I like about that too is, I am primarily a big MME guy. And I mean, I've got 603 lineups here on DraftKings alone. I think across And this is for the main slate. You know, I maxed out the early, the afternoon, the night slates. Like I'm on all of it. And I did this for 4 different sites. So we're probably talking 2,000 something entries today that when I finish this stream, I've got to go build my lineups. But there's 50% of our members, 50% of probably your members that are single entry players only. So if you were to build out a single entry lineup, and let me toss this question to you, I'll give you a minute to think about it too. And maybe you already know the answer, but I'm going to want to know where you're building your stack around for your single entry tournament. So depending on what you're entering today, if you're putting together one lineup, why don't you, rather than we go into this last game, I know you have about 5 minutes here, I want you to expand upon kind of where you're going with your one stack, whom might that be, and then the types of plays that you really, really like today, that if you're building a single lineup in, where are you going to kind of fill in the rest of that lineup?
I've had a tough time getting away from Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson as a primary stack in that range, because I think maybe I'm wrong and maybe he'll end up looking terrible in this game, but I think there's really a low chance that the Panthers offense busts today. I think that at the least they're going to be good against the Jets. The Jets defense I don't think was going to be very good to begin with. Then they lost both of their primary pass rushers that they brought in free agency this offseason. It could be a mess on defense, and we saw Carolina look good in limited exposure altogether. He's got Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall, and Christian McCaffrey. So, I mean, Sam Darnold, he's going to have to, like, still have Adam Gase show up and hide somewhere and be pulling the strings if he's not going to deliver with this group at home against the Jets. So whether it's Darnold with McCaffrey, Darnold with Robbie Anderson because he's cheaper than DJ Moore, or Darnold with both of those guys, I like starting with that. I think, especially on DK where McCaffrey is closer to the other top running backs, I can get McCaffrey, who's obviously not going to be low owned, but Darnold's going to be a lot lower owned with all of the QB value. So that kind of adds the uniqueness there, and add in a wide receiver because I think there's going to be plenty of scoring. So that's been my primary. And I started out saying this is what I'll look at because it's cheap, and then I'll move on when I see what's affordable. But it's tough for me to not start with that and then see what it allows me to do, in terms of fitting in Travis Kelce, in terms of fitting in an extra high dollar running back or an extra high dollar receiver. Mitch, you were just talking about differentiating by playing those high dollar wideouts when everybody else is playing those high dollar running backs. That spending room is something that I particularly value in trying to build out those lineups when I'm not going for as widespread exposure.
Man, I like that a lot. I think you nailed on a couple really cool points. The fact that you brought up Darnold makes me super happy, my friend, because that was actually about an hour and a half ago. One of the stacks I said was probably one of my favorite Millie Maker stacks today was the Darnold, Anderson, Dan Arnold, and running it back with Corey Davis on the other side, and potentially even Elijah Moore. So I do think that's a very, very interesting game. I'm pleased that you're there with me. Now, two positions I think are very difficult today, and I think they're going to be kind of the two positions where I think people win and lose. Tight end and defense. Where are you going at those two?
Tight end, I'm probably sticking in the range of looking at Travis Kelce up top if I have the money left. Kyle Pitts in the middle. I know that it's going to be highly owned, but I think the target upside's there. I'll probably end up pivoting off of him if I am going in that range, but that's kind of the starting point. And then Tyler Conklin is my low point if I'm spending up elsewhere. Chris was talking about the upside of guys like Zach Ertz, Pat Freiermuth. I think down in that similar range, near minimum price on DraftKings in particular, Tyler Conklin should be the number one tight end, and he's gone from limited to begin the week and dealing with the injury in preseason to now a full go and not apparently an injury concern heading into this first game. We love the upside on all the Vikings against the Bengals this week. All we really need is a touchdown from Conklin, even if he doesn't get big target upside. And I think, we've seen that Minnesota is willing to throw to those tight ends. The issue has been that we have two of them kind of cannibalizing each other in value. I think this week, this close to Chris Herndon arriving, and based on what Chris Herndon was doing with the Jets before getting moved, clearly they let him down, and that's the team that was hoping he would rebound. So I'm not factoring in Chris Herndon at all. I think Tyler Conklin's the number one, and I think he could be a high upside guy at a really low price this week.
I love the Tyler Conklin play. I think he's going to be super low owned. People probably only using him within a stack with Cousins and maybe like Justin Jefferson or something, looking for a touchdown equity. But I'm there with you. He's actually one of my top 10 picks this week. I believe he was right outside my top 10 actual tight end rankings. He's a great standalone option. I think is a phenomenal one-off because you don't necessarily need Cousins to erupt for Conklin to provide value at 2.9. We're talking 3 catches for 30 yards. And, 6 points ain't going to kill you, right? But you're enjoying the salary relief. And if he scores a touchdown, I mean, oh, my goodness, 3 for 30 and a score. And you're happy as a clam down there at, 2% or less ownership and 12, 13 points out of your tight end, who's nearly minimum price. So I love that call. Matt, I'm going to give you the same opportunity here. I know you have to bounce. You have, 10 times the members that we do for fantasy football. So I know you got stuff to take care of. By all means, if you have something you want to say on the way out, I'll give you the floor. And thanks a ton for coming in here and chatting with the Rise or Fall members today, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on here. It's fun to talk this stuff on Sunday morning. DraftSharks.com, mentioned it before. We've got you covered. Whatever format you're playing, we'll help you know who to start each week. We're also going to be doing a Q&A. I'm going to be doing a Q&A on our Discord later this morning. That's free to join, so you can come join us over there. Mitch, I appreciate you having me on here. I appreciate you joining us for our DFS shows on Friday night and in podcast form. I'm looking forward to this season.
It's going to be an exciting season, my friend. You have a great day today. I'm going to open up chat right now, my friends. You guys, this is your time. This is whatever you need to happen going forward. I'm here for you. Q&A time. Fire off any types of questions you might have. I want to hear what you might have to, 1v1 questions, 2v2s, lineup building scenarios, FanDuel, Yahoo, I'm there for you. Superdraft, I'm there for you. I've got entries on every single site. Now, why didn't I spend much time in FC today? I didn't spend any time in FC. That's because I've streamed about, probably 7.5 hours of Fantasy Cruncher goodness this week. And I do every single week at 1 o'clock every single day. And I do all sorts of Fantasy Cruncher streaming. So by all means, today, if you have any questions for FC, things like that, I got you. I got you covered. I can help you out with FC. I promise you that. I would say out of my 418 hours I spent on Twitch, I probably spent 400 of them streaming FC primarily. And that's because all of our members get $20 to FC. All right. So if you're one of our Team Rise or Fall members, you get $20 to use on FC. If you want to join us today, it's promo code NFL50. You get in here for 50% off. So listen to this. Cryptic says, listening to this, I've been able to identify some tweaks to my 150. I like that. I like that a lot. That's ideally kind of what we're doing here is trying to, find just the little nuanced lineup decisions that kind of go overlooked. Plays like Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, the entire industry today is saying the same freaking thing. It's so annoying. Christian McCaffrey, great play. Alvin Kamara, great play. Josh Robinson, fantastic play. Look for the diamonds in the rough. And it doesn't need to even be the random Trey Sermon hope for second half carries. It can be the Raheem Mostert at 5'8", the Damian Harris at 5'8", both on FanDuel. Fantastic touchdown equity, great cash options, great small field tournament options. Might not have 30-point ceilings, but they have what you need to take down a tournament. John, appreciate that very much. $20 dropped into the tip jar. Thank you, my dude. You're going to go out there and make 10 times the amount of that, 100 times the amount of that easily today. I'm not too concerned about you. You have helped our members for sure. You can get John Porter's core picks for Yahoo, for FanDuel, for DraftKings up on the website. He does all things MMA. I know he dabbles in NASCAR and PGA as well, and he's been putting up his MLB course, now his NFL course. The guy is everywhere. If you watch Ted Lasso, it's the Roy Kent song, right? John Porter, he's there. He's he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. That's John Porter, man. He's all over the Discord and all over the site. All right, let me get these questions. Let's do it. Let's freaking go. Yeah, Aaron Toller, I'm not even giving CG the light of day for bringing up his message. A stupid message. This freaking guy can't help himself. I do love him, though. Single entry, FanDuel fading the top tier running backs for top wide receivers. I think it's positive EV. Well, let's see. Fading the top tier running backs for the top. Oh, yes, I'm there with you. And I brought this up on my Friday show. I love the touchdown equity at this price range on FanDuel today. Najee, 6'5", Carson, 6'7", Aaron Jones, 7'4", Mostert, 6'1", Robinson, 5'9", I guess his ownership's going to be up there, though. Damian Harris, 5'8". That's a great spot, because then on the other side, you can go here at wide receiver and give me all the touchdowns. Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill. I think Justin Jefferson has great touchdown equity at 8K. Adam Thielen might be the best bet for a touchdown inside anywhere between 6.5 to 7.5. I think Thielen, a guy who had double digits last year, especially now that there's no Irv Smith, is he just the red zone guy? A guy who was the red zone guy last year with Rudolph around and Irv Smith around. Now neither of those guys are there, and it's Tyler Conklin. So Adam Thielen, is he a surefire bet for a touchdown if this is a shootout today at Cincy? I think he's a great target at 7.3K. So I'm with you. I like the opportunity at running back today of kind of going for the awkward priced running backs. This high tier up here where you've got a bunch of guys 20% or more owned. Give me these guys who are all single digit potentially on FanDuel. So that's a phenomenal point. I like that a lot. Let's see what else we got here. Thoughts on exposure to Hurts? Yeah, I mean, I like him. He's going to be in my player pool. I'm not outright targeting him. Again, I don't want to be targeting volatile stacks when I don't need to be. I think that like a Cousins, Thielen, and Tyler Boyd stack has just as much probability and potential as a Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, and Calvin Ridley stack or something like that, or Kyle Pitts and Devonta Smith. Like those are equally volatile stacks, but I think there's a higher probability in the Cousins, Jefferson, Boyd stack. So give me those. Guy like Jalen Hurts actually is somebody I'm more interested in rolling out as a standalone, like non-stacked option. This guy has 100+ rushing yard upside. He might not throw for 300 yards. He might be a 200-yard throw, 220 yards through the air, 110 on the ground today against Atlanta, who has miserable linebackers, miserable safeties, two positions who are often in charge of making sure the quarterback doesn't get through the second level. And if these guys just can't tackle him, Jalen Hurts racking up over 100 yards rushing like that, could get a rushing touchdown like that. And he might not throw many touchdowns, in which case, who cares about the stacks? What's up, Van? Just hopped in. Any mention of Terrell Williams? Great GPP play. Maybe. Tyrell Williams, we kind of know what he is at this point in his career, right? And yeah, I mean, whatever. Maybe he's wide receiver one role, but friends, this is such an overlooked thing. He had that role with the Raiders for a time being, I believe, Raiders or Chargers, whatever it was. There was times in his Chargers, I think, right? Times in his career where he's had the opportunity because of injury to be in our wide receiver one, and he done nothing with it. And now he goes out there with Goff. Come on. I mean, what is he going to be peppered with 10, 12 targets? I don't think so. I think TJ Hawkinson is the wide receiver one. So I'm not there. And partially is because, listen, there's just so many other good options. Devonta Smith, 4.5. Laviska Shenault, 5K. Corey Davis, 4.9. Marvin Jones, 3.6. Callaway, 3.4. Terrace Marshall, Elijah Moore, Rondell Moore, all 3K. Like, what type of upside do you get out of Tyrell Williams today? It's not the upside that I want at 4.4K. And on FanDuel, I think he's 5.2. Just does not have the opportunity. Might have the opportunity. I don't think he has the probability or the upside of hitting the probability of slate winning potential. And I just don't think Tyrell Williams has that. So I'm not there. I don't even think I have him in my player pool. Does that mean he's going to go for 10 for 120 and 2 scores today? Maybe. That's my luck. Do you recommend using wide receiver, running back, and flex? I think in tournaments, you can go with either or. Cash games, as 3 running backs all the way. I think in small tournaments, 100 less than 100 people, I think 3 running backs is a fine option. But I'm open to using both. One position I don't include in my flex spot, and I actually uncheck them in my options here through my strategy here. I go through flex option and I remove the tight end. I just don't like tight ends. And, we're talking, I think, 12% of tournaments last year for the Millie Maker was won with a tight end in there, 88% with a wide receiver or running back. I believe out of that 88%, 60%, 63%, I think, was wide receiver. So if you're playing purely probabilities, wide receiver should be the third option, but I allow for some flexibility in there. Thoughts on Edmonds pivots off a higher owned James Robinson? Yeah, Chase Edmonds is a fine play. On DraftKings, they're not even close in price, so that's not really a direct pivot. Direct pivot on DraftKings would be, going off of James Robinson at 6'4" to Najee Harris at 6'3", going down to Raheem Mostert at 5'8". These types of plays, right? or Chris Carson at 5.9K. On FanDuel, they're a little bit closer. I think $800 difference. Chase Edmonds, I think, is going to be under-owned today. I really do. Single-digit ownership projection from teamriseorfall.com. And I think that you can get the, Chase Edmonds floor of having 4 to 6 receptions today at 4.6K. I think he's a very overlooked option in a game that potentially could shoot out today. So, Daniel, I'm a big fan of Chase Edmonds. Can I go out of my way to get him and plug him in? It's going to be hard to do so because there's just so many good options. But I do not blame anybody going down here and grabbing, James Robinson, grabbing Chase Edmonds over James Robinson on either site because of the PPR equity. Now, on FanDuel, it's kind of hard to do that because I don't know if he has the touchdown equity. This is a guy that just does not get red zone touches, has never. And I don't know if he will today either. So wide receiver in flex for upside in large contests. Yes, just hit on that. So it looks like I had hit that for you. Sherman says, with so much value and mentions of lower projected quarterbacks, remembering our study with fewer QBs, should we be spreading out while value is there or sticking to our play top players? I think this just aligns with your personal beliefs. Now, we had done so much lineup study through Fantasy Cruncher this summer that we looked at the fact that there's one person who has won the Millie Maker 3 times, and each of those times he used less than 5 quarterbacks. So he picks 3 to 5 quarterbacks each week. How he chooses them, I'm not sure if they're just his top projected or has his own metrics, whatever it is. So you can do that. Understand that your core is going to be incredibly tight. When you do something like that, and I can show this, let me show you real quick. If you do something like that at quarterback, you are going to end up having tight exposure to wide receivers that you wouldn't have had to the first time around. If you really spread out your ownership when you're crunching your lineups for 150, your ownerships on the wide receivers will be very spread out because you'll cap out each wide receiver based on the amount of stacks you have of that team. Now, if you are focusing on just a few quarterbacks, well, then you're going to have a lot more exposure to those wide receivers. And I'll sort by my used real quick just so you can see what happens if I do that. And there you go. We had Josh Allen in there a ton, so now we get a ton of digs. You had a bunch of Aaron Rodgers as one of my 5 quarterbacks. Well, Devontae Adams in there as a top 5 wide receiver. Same thing here with, let's see, whom else we have? Callaway, because he's on the opposite side of the ball. So, we've really honed in on certain players. Travis Kelce is at the max cap exposure here because of the quarterbacks used. If you spread out your quarterbacks and you crunch from there, your exposures are going to be a lot more spread out as you create more and more lineups and you water down your player pool. That's completely up to the user on, I think, where they are in what they want to do. Jefferson or Thielen on FanDuel. What's up, Bassett? It's Thielen for me. Touchdown equity, I think, is very similar to Jefferson, and I think Thielen's the lower owned. So for me, Adam Thielen. Big contest, small contest, doesn't matter. Adam Thielen. How much should we value weather today? Very windy in Buffalo. I don't care. Josh Allen has a howitzer. He can also run them in. And I'm not concerned at all about weather anywhere today. Falcons D for the win. They are going to be one of the higher owned defenses today on the entire slate. So if you're on the Falcons D, I think they're better suited for small tournaments. I think they're best suited for cash games. They are min price today on DraftKings, and I think like 3.6 or something on FanDuel. But listen, there's so many other good options at defense. Why eat the chalk at defense today when you can pick some other defenses that could rack up sacks, interceptions, keep teams to low totals? The Bills D at 2.5. What about the Jags D at 2.7? The Miami defense 2.9 against a rookie quarterback. Miami defense was playing very well to close out the season last year. Multiple double-digit games, and they're going against Mac Jones in his rookie start. That could be a fine option. The KC here, Minnesota here. I mean, lots of great options. Why eat the chalky defense today? I'm not there. Barkley, I have way down my own personal rankings. I might touch him over there on Superdraft. I think his multiplier is like 1.25. But I personally am not going out of my way to get Barkley. So no. Are we avoiding super chalk? Pitts, Callaway, Moore, stud running backs? No, there's no super chalk today. It's a very, very large slate. Super chalk, in my opinion, we're talking 35, 40% ownership. Close to minimum price guys on a smaller 9 to 10 game slate are going to end up being 45, 60% owned. You get the spot starting, Latavius Murray in the past for the Saints, and he'd be 58% owned. That's uber chalk to me. Super chalk. Kyle Pitts, our projected ownership, I think, 14%. Callaway was 18%. Rondell Moore was 9 or 10%. Study running backs, I think we had between 18 and 25%. We're talking, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry. We are talking about Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey. These guys are going to be higher owned. We do have higher projected, but there's no uber chalk. There's no point in fading them outright for your own reasons. I think it all circles back to something I talked about to start the show. What type of contests are you entering? Small tournaments? Who cares? You can eat some of these players in a less than 100-person tournament. You're doing a large milli maker? Yeah, try to get off of Kyle Pitts at 15%. Go to Noah Fant at 4% projected ownership. You're getting off of, Alvin Kamara, 22% projected ownership. Go to Derrick Henry at 16%. Go to Aaron Jones at 9%, right? You could be different, not be on trash players, not be on huge dart throws, and you could still pick guys who have great floor and ceiling combinations and good possibilities of hitting their potential. Let's see what else we have here. Wide receiver pool. We got a wide receiver pool for you up on the website. That is a very time-consuming thing to go over, like my personal player pool for wide receiver and running back and stuff. I ended up with 68 players in my pool today, I believe. 68 players used in my crunches. We have player pools on the website. So if you're needing help with things like that, my friend, you have time. It's still an hour and 40 minutes left. I believe it's under the content section. You got the core picks and you've got the player pools. Here's what it looks like, just so you can take a peek. You can actually download these, my friend. So it's got a player pool for each position and then all sorts of notes, priority picks for FanDuel, Superdraft, Yahoo. We got you covered. We got you hooked up, but you got to be a member. So I'm not going to go over those and just give away the farm. Still keeping the value on the site while trying to support the community on YouTube. Okay. So you can join today for $15 for your first month with promo code NFL50. And it is the last hour and a half or so to be able to grab that. Oh, what's up, Andrew? Yeah, spent a lot of time talking about Teddy Bridgewater stacks in the beginning of the show. He was actually mentioned in the Donuts playbook. To what extent and how, I'm not going to really go over ad nauseum, but I had talked about Teddy B in my premium Donuts playbook there on the site being one of my favorite 3 options on DraftKings today. Top stack on FanDuel to take down the 25 cent. Yeah, I mean, you gotta, listen, Danielle, if you are going with a very large field tournament, you're kind of going to want to look for a lot of correlation. All right. So just being on Carolina and Sam Darnold, it is not enough. Or being on the other side of the ball, Zach Wilson, is not enough. Having the proper stack and the correlation is very important because that 25 center on FanDuel is massive. We're talking hundreds of thousands of entries. You got to take down that tournament. You're probably going to need a 4-player stack, maybe even a 5-player stack. And you're going to need to hope and pray that you are on the right combination. A Sam Darnold to Dan Arnold with, DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson, right? Some 3-player stack, running back on the other side with Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, something like that. Listen, if that stack hits, you are rolling in the dough because it does not cost much. And you have so much money left over that you can go ahead and you can pay up for all sorts of studs everywhere else. Travis Kelce, Devontae Adams, Christian McCaffrey. You've got the money to do so. It's not hard to do it. So I like that idea. Randomness on DK. So here's how I play, Brian. Good to see you. Thanks for asking that question today. I have 603 entries currently. I'll probably enter some more on the main slate on DraftKings. It comes out like $1,500 or so on the main slate. I am probably going to enter out any other mini maxes that pop up over the next hour and a half and just keep adding in entries. And I will change my strategy a little bit each and every time so that I can just kind of spread out my exposures, hedge my investments a little bit. I'm not going to run out 150 lineups and enter it into what would equate to probably 900 total entries and 6 different 150 maxes today. I am going to go, pure projections at 0% randomness, 100% global cap for one of the files. Another file, I'm going to cap each position. Another file, I'll have a 100% global cap, and I'll use randomness through the roof. Like I mix and match what I do, and I just kind of use our median projections to have a starting point, and then I tweak based on all the things I've talked about over the last hour and a half, based on the 45-minute private lineup building video. If you liked a little bit of what I showed today, this is just scratching the surface of what I did on the private lineup building video for the members. And I showed screenshotted my exposures on Superdraft and Yahoo, and I did a whole leverage and game theory right up at the bottom of the article. So if you like this, you're going to love that. I would like to bring this point up as well. I play individual single entries just like MLB. The entries are lower and they rarely fill. Yeah, I mean, if you guys are paying attention on DraftKings later, focus on those small contests right before the slate locks, and they'll pop up some small tournaments, the ones that you all should be trying to get into, 49 person, 60 people, 99, 112, 115, 3 max, $5, 115 entries, things like that. Both FanDuel and DraftKings do that a ton. How do I feel about ratings versus projections? Well, this is a phenomenal question, Marky Mark. You must be one of my members. So on our study hub, you've got these ratings here, and you also have projections. You have them for, by the way, pay attention, my friends. If you scroll over a little bit more to the right, check this out. We got Yahoo ratings. CG, the wizard, he got them in. He got them in this year. I freaking love it. So there are now ratings for the players. Now, why is that important, my friends? On DraftKings last year, we went back through lineup study and we're like, how did ratings do earlier in the season versus projections? And so we went back through and we looked at this, and oh my gosh, what do you know? I believe in week one, we had you just crunched like a raw optimal 150 with the ratings, you would have binked the Millie Maker. And in week two, I think it took down like the $9, whatever that's called, slant. It took that one down, did not win the Millie Maker. It's just too big of a tournament. So the first 2 weeks of the season went absolutely nuclear. Now, how do we know if that translates to the beginning of this year? Well, we don't know, but we have a nice, interesting trend at the beginning of MLB for about 2 weeks and the beginning of NBA for about a month. The ratings were exceptional. And as more information came out throughout the year, as we had larger sample sizes for the current, team scenarios and whatever, usage and stuff for MLB or NBA and NFL, I would assume is going to be similar. Snap counts, target rates, target shares, things like that. As we get more data, I think the projections will hone in a little bit. But in the beginning of the season, without going over what goes into ratings, it's a longer form view. I think that ratings are going to be very sharp to start the season. And as the season continues, I think I'll probably move my way away from them a little bit towards the projections when I'm crunching by them. Ratings will always be good when you are trying to select the best players, okay? And I think that if you're crunching by ratings, what you're inherently saying to Fantasy Cruncher and with our projections, you're saying play the best players. And I know you've heard that out there before, and people have spouted that term out there, that phrase, play the best players. If you crunch by ratings, you're playing the best players, and you're telling FC, I only want the best players. I don't care about anything else. And as we get further into the season, when ownerships start to increase on certain players, they start to get a little bit tighter. The field gets tighter on the pools and in the tournaments and on the ownerships, then you've got to do a lot more manipulating. And I think in week one, you can get away with just playing the best players. Who are the best players today? Well, sort by ratings, and you guys know it. It's the who's who of who the best players are. Who are the best players in the NFL at quarterback today in the main slate? Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray. Everyone probably agrees on this. Well, guess what? They're the top 3 rated players. So if you're saying crunch by rating, here's your player pool. It's these guys right here. Like if you crunch by rating, you're ending up with the best quarterbacks. If you crunch by projections, it's going to be different because it's going to be using the value. You're going to get some more exposure to Mac Jones, Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Joe Burrow, Tyrod Taylor. If you don't remove him, Zach Wilson, you're going to get a wide array of exposures. So if you're trying to make sure that you are just like, hey, it's week one, ownerships are not chalky, I just want the best plays only, well, then you should be crunching by ratings. If you just want the best players, okay? Major difference. What's up, Brian? Thank you for the insight. Appreciate. Watch the lineup private video. My man, appreciate you. Thank you. Defensive play on FanDuel. Well, I mean, inherently that's going to be based on projections for me and ownerships. I'm kind of off of where a lot of the field is, where they're on Atlanta, they're on Denver. Give me the Bills. Give me the Jaguars. I want the second tier of ownership at these positions. Let's see. 1 p.m., 4 p.m. only slates or prime single entry spots. Yeah, that's funny you say that because I maxed out both the 1 p.m. on DraftKings. I maxed out the 4 p.m. on DraftKings as well. I can't help myself. Do we play single entry GPPs as cash games? No. Nope. Tournaments are tournaments. Cash games are cash games. Very simple to me. I don't care if it's a 49-person tournament. I'm still playing it as a tournament. I want to get to the top of it. Because the top of it, $5 invested against 49 people, might win $75. Or the $12, I play that one sometimes. $12 49-person contest returns $125 or $150, whatever it is. $25 47-person tournament, you are returning $250. I'm not playing my cash lineup in, and I'm not doing a small single entry build in cash games. They're just inherently different things you should be entering in different ways. Build your lineup to the contest you're entering. Oh man, this gives me the opportunity here. Do not build your lineups and then go enter it into contests. That is the worst thing on earth. And I'm sorry, I bet we are one of the only companies out there preaching this right now. Build your lineups to the contest you're entering. They're all different. All plays are great and all plays are bad based on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're entering head-to-heads today, my friends, the difference between Josh Allen versus Kyler Murray is minor overall. But if you're talking about like head-to-heads versus double ups, I think Kyler Murray is probably the better double up play. I think Josh Allen probably the better head-to-head play. Why? Because in head-to-heads, I bet you a lot of freaking people are using Kyler Murray today. You want to be just a little bit different, and you want to use Josh Allen, a guy who scored over 30 points 8 times last year. And Kyler Murray only, I think, got past that 3 times in his first 10 games before he hurt his shoulder. Kyler Murray has shown to be maybe a better floor for double ups and cash and 50-50s, but Josh Allen, a better head-to-head type option, I think, and a lower owned, and you can just differentiate a little bit there and be just a little bit different and have an opportunity now to win more than 60% of your head-to-heads in just that one spot. Build to the contest. Don't build and then enter. We are up to, oh my goodness, 94 likes. We've had, I can't tell right now until I end the stream, but on YouTube, we've had a congruent viewership of anywhere between 100 to 160 at any one time. Thank you so much for that type of support on our very first NFL live stream on YouTube in history. 2 years of streaming on Twitch, and I posted this on on Twitter earlier today. I'm going to bring it up because here is where we've been for quite a while, okay? Here it is. Kind of nuts. So we've streamed on Twitch for 2 years. We had 418 hours streamed, 1.38 million minutes watched, 81,000 different live views, 18,000 different people tuned in over those 2 years. Just insane. And I wondered today, would that translate to pretty much our first big time YouTube stream, as we've been primarily streaming off-season stuff? Yeah, John, I think it is too, buddy. And it's really cool to see. So thank you so much to anybody who is, by the way, you guys can follow me on Twitter at DFSnDonuts. Thank you to anybody who today has tuned in on YouTube, has hit the like button, as we are now over 103 likes, as I brought that up one time there. Use promo code NFL50, promo code NFL50, and you can join for 50% off your first month. You can get access to all of our premium cores and picks, all our player pools, our projections, our ownerships, all our cheat sheets. Who makes these picks and who works on these models. We have 4 full-time pros. over a dozen live final seats between us, dozens of 5 and 6 figure wins. So it's not like any Joe Schmoes out there making this content. Might not have the biggest reach on Twitter and might not have the personalities all over the internet outside of Chris and I. But that does not mean they're not sharp players. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you saw Davin Puggle with, I think, 6 different placings inside or over 10K, right? 6 different placings, 4 different nights in the Monster over the last 2 weeks in MLB. And this guy, he's only got 1,100 followers on Twitter, just doesn't spend time on Twitter. He's not out there on social media, could give 2 squirts, could care less. But he just got back with 5 seats from this past season's MLB Live Final, or 6 seats. I think he had 6 seats at the FanDuel Live Final. We didn't market it. He didn't market it. It doesn't matter to us. What matters most is our efforts and energy put into supporting our members, not sitting here like pimping out our members or pimping out our staff. That's irrelevant to us. We know that focusing on you guys the most and making sure you're supported going into week 1, most important. Zach Moss. Oh, this is the stuff I miss while I stream. This is the stuff I miss. Holy smokes. This is crazy. Zach Moss officially inactive. Devin Singletary absolutely gets a bump. I'm going to have to go shift around my rankings a little bit here over on Fantasy Pros as well. They added me as the expert rankings this year. So I'm going to have to go do that in a hot minute here as soon as I end. But Devin Singletary absolutely is going to get the bump today. Let me see. I'll do it live for you, okay? The heck, why not? So I've got my expert rankings up here. I'm going to move. I'm going to take out Zach Moss. Where is that, by the way? I'll have to go do this on the side. I can't focus right now. I'm going to have to look for an official like Bill's message or something like that. So that's interesting. Kind of want to find that news real quick. Okay, that's semi-important here. There it is. How interesting. Must have gotten in trouble or had a COVID thing or something. Now, who the heck what would happen here? When I see this, somebody who's not injured, who's supposed to be splitting the RB1, RB1, 1A, 1B role, it makes me think curfew, showed up late, spout with coaches, or getting traded, right? Like something is amiss here. If Ian Rappaport's reporting, he is Zach Moss is inactive and not injured. That is interesting. So Devin Singletary, holy smokes. Thank you for bringing that up for me. We'll have to adjust projections and everything over that one. Thank you, dude. Robert Patterson, I love all the insight. Appreciate you, man. From true professionals in this. I'm new to this. I'm trying to get my DFS feet wet. Well, we got your back, baby. That's why we're here. What is happening? Creed over there on Twitch says Trey Sermon is inactive. Whoa. Well, Raheem Mostert, unfortunately, was one of my favorite plays. I talked about him 4 different times today. Mentioned him in the private lineup building stream in my Donuts playbook. Was one of my favorite plays. Dang, what happened there? What is happening? Let me see if I can find some confirmation on that one. What is it? I mean, is this stuff just rolling in now? One of the reporters for San Francisco has Trey Sermon is inactive. Oh, man. I don't have a reasoning, though. Healthy scratch. Oh, my goodness. That's crazy. Healthy scratch. Here's what I'm seeing on Twitter already, my friends. And you saw me talk about it. I'm going to post it right now. I do it live. I don't care. You ready? So I talk about this all the time. The industry just regurgitates everything from everybody, right? Like it's crazy. The industry just says the same crap over and over again. The first thing I saw on my Twitter was Mostert massive boost, Mostert plug and play, cash log, all this stuff, right? Like nobody talks about the fact that Raheem Mostert probably just lost a lot of value, in my opinion, as far as DFS goes. because of what John's also saying. He's shooting up everybody's rankings. He's going to shoot up my rankings here too, but these are for like fantasy football, okay? But if we're talking DFS, my friends, we're not learning anything. Have I been talking to myself for a while? Because Raheem Mostert was one of my favorites today in tournaments. But now, since everyone under the sun is telling you to play him, I'm going to find a way to differentiate. Leverage, public perception, go prosper. Fortune favors the bold in DFS. Like, I'm seeing my timeline is filled with it right now. Mostert, lock. Okay. Who's backing him up today? J. Michael Hasty? Jeff Wilson's hurt. I mean, one player actually I like a little bit right now. George Kittle. Just one less competent running back to deal with, whom I thought would have been out there for more pass catching options. I think Kittle can get peppered with a few more targets. And I think he now has maybe slightly a little bit more red zone equity. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, J. Michael Hasty and a milli maker, right? I mean, you're looking at a guy who, listen, if everyone thought Trey Sermon was a good second half option, if they're going to be smashing the Lions in the face by 20 points in the final quarter, doesn't J. Michael Hasty slide into that role? Doesn't he? Isn't he a guy who now we're looking at maybe 15 carries in a blowout? I don't know. Got to look at that. I'm going to have to think about that. Hasty looked pretty decent in preseason, by the way, especially when he got opportunity. 105 likes on YouTube. I can't get over this. Fam, give me uno momento here. I want to look up one thing to see if I have the time for it. I'm just going to throw this up on the big screen. And guys, you know how this works. All right. Full-time house dad also. So give me like 60 seconds. I'm going to check on the kids. It's been 2.5 hours. They're with mama. I'm going to make sure everything is all set. And then if I can give you more time this morning, I'm going to give you more time. We'll do a little bit more Q&A and open up do some more lineup building together. But give me a second, okay? Give me 1 minute. I'm going to mute my mic. Go check on the kiddos. I love y'all. I appreciate you. What a day. What a day. What a first stream. Just a phenomenal first stream. I appreciate you so much. I really do. It's been wild. Again, over there on Twitch, if you watched on Twitch all day, which I had, I don't know, between 20 or 30 who just hung out there over on Twitch, do not forget, we are now full-time on YouTube every single day. So if you've been wondering where we've been, we had 29 hours of streams in August on YouTube. 29 hours you missed out on. I hope you didn't. If you were stuck on Twitch and just lost out, oh goodness, what a tough loss. We had about 9 hours this week, or 8.5 hours, whatever it amounted to, include today. And we're looking at 10, over 10 hours. I can't do math this fast. I'm tired now. Probably 11 to 12 hours of total streaming, another 2-3 hours of videos. We're talking 14, 15 hours of videos and streams on YouTube. We had, I think, 10 videos between Team A and Beastie and myself and all these streams. So thank you so much for your support. All the like buttons over there on YouTube. It's just mind-boggling. I never thought I would have a YouTube stream first off. So see over 3,000 people watching and following, and this many people hitting the like button today. Just blows my mind. So I'm very humbled. I thank you very much. Just too cool. Just too cool. You guys are the best community, and I'm very thankful for you. Is there anything that I can do for you before we bounce? Anything at all? If it's any site, any lineup building, any final questions, I've got like 2-3 minutes here. Please, by all means, fire off that final question, the one that's kept you awake at night. If there's something I can help you with here, DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, Superdraft, Fantasy Cruncher, please, 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 fire it off. I just want to make sure I support my viewers, my listeners, the people watching. I know I'm in a blessed position to be able to do this, and I want to be able to give back in all ways, shapes, or forms. And I try, with the first step being an affordable price point of less than $1 a day to be a part of teamriseorfall.com, or being less than $1 a day to use my betting site, the new betting site I've got going over here, less than 70 cents a day, right? So I've set up both my companies, and you can sign up over there if you want. I've set up both my companies to be affordable, because honestly, I just want things to be at a price where I'm not pricing out the industry. I don't like that. Like, if I were a user, I want to be using people, or I want to be able to pay for a site that is not going to, cost me an arm and a leg to be a part of. And so that was the first part. Number two, I want to be valuable for you guys, not just affordable, but I want to be of value. What does that mean to me? That is creating tools that people can use without needing an hour-long tutorial to use them. And then beyond just having the tutorials on the site, I want to show people how to use them through my streams, and have Discord be a nice Q&A opportunity. So thank you for being a member, or simply being a follower, or simply being somebody who checked us out today. They're all different, really cool, humbling ways for a person who just left teaching to experience, because teaching is a place where I didn't get a lot of appreciation for 13 years of doing it. And I definitely didn't have this type of interaction. So having the support that I have here, the appreciation that I have from my members is humbling. It's pretty cool. So thank you very much, Michael and Sean and Eric, and everybody who was here today hanging out with us. It was really neat. And thank you so much. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Fortune favors the bold. Do not forget, in tournaments today, do not eat that chalk. There's way too many valuable options. Go out there, be aggressive, be bold with your choices. Do not feel like you're missing out. Do not have FOMO, fear of missing out today. Play to win your tournaments. You're not trying to double up your return. If you're okay with returning 2-3 times your investment, cool, that's fine. But that is not your goal. Do not play a tournament today and play safely because you're worried Marquez Callaway might score 20 points. Who cares if he does? You could still be on Marvin Jones, who might outscore him. What if Callaway gets locked up by J.R. Alexander and all of a sudden you are off the guy who 20% of the field has at 3 points? Get off these volatile players and these large milli makers. You're trying to win them. You're trying to take them down. So play as such. And you ain't going to do it by being safe, be bold, be aggressive, embrace the volatility that is DFS. There are 26 teams to choose from today, 13 games in action. If you're sitting there playing cautious, playing safe, go play a double up. If your goal is to return a little bit of money, I want to build my bankroll, go play a double up. Go play a cash game. Go play a head-to-head. Don't sit there in tournaments being concerned about the amount of money you're going to get back. Enter them willing and fully prepared to lose every single penny. And that is how you're going to take down a tournament sooner or later. You got to be aggressive. You have to be comfortable. You have to embrace that volatility. Go in there expecting to lose the money you've invested. And then when you don't and you're shocked because that really, really volatile option that you used instead of Marquez Callaway had 88 yards and a touchdown in the first half, dance. Get up in your living room and enjoy it. Enjoy the excitement of DFS. Enjoy NFL being back. There's nothing better than it. There's nothing better than DFS out there. I promise you this. If you can embrace that volatility, you're going to be excited by the end of the day because you'll have at least had fun embracing it. And number two, you're going to put yourself in a better position to win a tournament. There's going to be somebody out there today that did something great. I have every confidence in some of you returning something just absolutely superb today. And I hope it's me. I hope it's you. And if you stuck around this whole stream, thank you so freaking much for being here. I'm jacked up. I'm going to go build my lineups. I've got over 2,000 lineups to build across the industry. And I hope that you go forward and you make some money right now. Let's freaking go. Rise or fall to the moon, baby. I'll see you on the inside.